Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto uses Shinigami revives Mito Uzumaki part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Fear and greed, these two aspects of humanity have plagued the human race since its inception. It can drive a good man to commit evil. In this world, these feelings have already left their mark. The Uzumaki clan was an old clan, existing before the time of the shinobi. They were also an isolated clan, taking up residence on the island of Whirlpool. They stayed there, choosing not to interact with outside world, having no interest in the wars of man. On this island, the Uzumaki would establish temples, from which they would gain favor with the god of death, the Shinigami, and the Shinigami would in exchange for their piety give them a gift. They would be given strong life forces, so that they may live longer. They would be given the power of healing, so that they may recover from their wounds. Finally, they would be given the ability to manipulate their spirit, and from this would be born Fuinjutsu. These gifts also came with a price, for when an Uzumaki died, they would serve as reapers for the Shinigami, collecting the souls of the dead and bringing them before the god to be judged. When Kaguya rose to power and ate the fruit of the Shinju, she enslaved the world and brought peace. But unlike what legend states, she did not trap everyone in genjutsu, but only those that opposed her. The Uzumaki did not. When she came to them, asking if they would oppose her right to rule, the Uzumaki sensed her new energy, similar to the Shinigami. They declared her a goddess, and accepted her as the ruler of the world. When the Sage of Six Paths rose up in rebellion, the Uzumaki would oppose him, siding with Kaguya, and would eventually be defeated. From their defeat, Kaguya would recognize the threat of her son and transform into the Jibi. But the sage would learn from stolen Uzumaki works. He would develop a chakra version of Fuinjutsu. When he found he could not use the spiritual Fuinjutsu the Uzumaki used, and with it he would trap Kaguya. With the war over, he would take a wife, taking an Uzumaki bride in exchange for peace, and secretly to bless his children with their power. But this Uzumaki would be tricky. She would never introduce them to the Shinigami's essence. They would never get access to the Shinigami's gifts. Years into the future, the ninja clans were established, and the ninja arts of Genjutsu, Ninjutsu, and Fuinjutsu were spread. With the samurai arts of Taijutsu and Kenjutsu adopted by this new class of warriors, these new warriors were coined shinobi. The Uzumaki, while still choosing to remain isolated, would be declared a shinobi clan rather than a clan of monks due to their knowledge in the ninja art of Fuinjutsu. It would also be during this time that the Uzumaki would change. With their defeat at the hands of the sage many years ago and the rise of chakra users, they too began to train ninjas to guard their homes. But their first duty would always be to the Shinigami, and for this duty they would be rewarded the Shiki Fuin, a seal powered by the god of death himself. During the end of the clan wars, society would start to settle. The ninjas would seek peace. Hashirama and Madara would go to the daimyo and declare their loyalty in exchange for the right to found Konoha, a ninja village. With this agreement, the world would once again change. Shinobi would seek protection from themselves, and the safety and strength a country could provide. The daimyo would now have a loyal force of samurai and shinobi to aid their countries in times of conflict. Once again, the Uzumaki would be forced to adapt. They would break their isolation, they would examine the shinobi villages, and their high priestess, Mito Uzumaki, would become enamored with the idea of the will of fire. She would marry the first Hokage, bringing a much-needed alliance in a changed world. However, in Konoha not all was well. There were suspicions amongst the leaders of the new land. Upon Mito's arrival in Konoha, she created the Uzumaki Mass Temple, a temple to the Shinigami. She would also never pay respect to any of the shrines for the Sage of Six Paths and individuals whose existence had become legend and had even become the god of the shinobi people. These actions would cause people to be wary, but her husband would soothe their worries. His death and her subsequent visit to the temple for prayer would only make matters worse, as the Shinigami was viewed as an evil entity. Still, these worries would be laid to rest when she healed Tobarama's injuries after his fight with the Gold and Silver Brothers of Kyumo. These worries would be further soothed when the Uzumaki came to their aid during the First World War, a war in which the armies of the daimyo and various hidden villages clashed for supremacy. During this time, Mito would work closely with Tobarama. He would learn much of the Uzumaki in these studies and through this knowledge develop new jutsu through her aid. Through her help he would learn of the Shadow Clone Jutsu, a jutsu that he would recreate, a jutsu that in its original form split the soul of the creator, not just the chakra, and thus would allow the user to learn what the clone learns. Through her knowledge of seals, both ninja and Uzumaki, she would help him develop the Hiraishin. Her biggest contribution would be when things started to look bleak for Fire Country. She would introduce Tobarama to her connection to the Shinigami, and through this knowledge they would create the abomination known as the Edo Tensei. Tobarama would be alarmed. He had always been paranoid of the Uchiha, but there was apparently a threat he had overlooked. The Uzumaki. A clan that was not part of Konoha, a clan that worshipped a different, and in his mind dark god, a clan that could call on the Shinigami himself for aid. He would start to observe the Uzumaki and make a contingency for if they should turn against his people. These thoughts and plans he would keep sealed in the Hokage's vault so that none but his successor could know of them. However, during the war, Tobirama's life would be cut short, and he would select Sarutobi Hiruzen as the next Hokage. Sarutobi would discover these notes, he would see their connection to the Shinigami, and he would feel fear. Tobirama had never told him of his fears, and unlike his predecessor, he only knew Mito in passing. In fact, the number of Uzumaki he interacted with could be counted on one hand. These worries would increase as during the war he had served on the front lines against Kumo, and had the misfortune of meeting the vessels of the Nibi and Hachibi, spawning an interest in Jinchuriki. From this knowledge he knew that you could only seal a biju into a baby, otherwise the vessel would quickly die and the creature would be released where its vessel perished. But yet the Uzumaki were different. Mito, a full-grown woman, had sealed the most powerful of the tailed beasts into her own body with little consequence. She had even outlived 2 Hokages. And now he finds this is not an isolated incident. She had called one Kushina Uzumaki, a girl several years older than a baby, to Konoha to be the next container. The Uzumaki, masters of seals, the very things that bind the biju to Jinchuriki, did not need to be a baby to seal one of the tailed beasts into their body. Sarutobi would then remember the god the Uzumaki worshipped, the Shinigami. He would not allow this power to be in the hands of someone outside of the Land of Fire, and he most certainly could not allow a clan that worshipped death to have that much power. The world, his people, could not survive if maniacs, loyal foremost to their family, and the Shinigami, ever gained that power. It was on that day a plan was hatched. Before all things, people are greedy. This is especially true with shinobi and the daimyo, and for so long the Uzumaki had remained powerful on their island of mysteries, wearing fine robes for their worship. The shinobi wanted their power, their life force, and their seals. The daimyo wanted their land and their treasures. So when Sarutobi came to his lord with the knowledge that the Uzumaki were a threat and worshippers of the Shinigami, he received his permission. From there Sarutobi got in contact with his old friend Danzo, and had him leak the defenses of Whirlpool. The countries that had fought the Uzumaki wanted vengeance, while those who had fought alongside them envied and desired their power. It was not hard for an alliance to be struck. The greedy people of lightning and the bloodthirsty people of water joined together to assault the small island, while the forces of Earth would launch a group of raids on the western side of Fire Country, distracting the supposed ally of Whirlpool. Meanwhile, Sarutobi ordered Danzo's root division to station itself near Whirlpool with orders to swoop in once the battle was over and seize the spoils. The massacre of the Uzumaki would start the Second World War. The alliance spawned from greed would be dashed as the Uzumaki enacted a large-scale Shiki Fuin to summon the Shinigami and send their invaders to his stomach, while the Uzumaki would take their place as his servants. The survivors of the invasion, those who had already taken artifacts to the boats, would be set upon by Danzo, splitting the artifacts between the ninja forces of Kumo, Kiri, and Konoha. The interference of Konoha and the stealing of the majority of the Uzumaki's artifacts would cause the forces of water and lightning to declare war on fire. While Earth, cheated of their share of the prize, would find itself declaring war on lightning and fighting a war against fire. Fire Country, despite being the architect of this incident, would be forced into the war when the alliance declared war on them and when the common citizen, those who didn't know of their treachery, called for justice. The war would involve every country, not even allowing Iron to maintain neutrality, as they were forced to defend their borders, as countries found themselves battlegrounds, while others sought to take advantage. This war would be thought of as the most devastating of all wars. Meanwhile, Whirlpool would be sealed, never to be set foot on for many years to come, the bodies unburied, as survivors would tell stories of watching from the boats as people dropped dead on the beach, as if they were puppets and their strings were cut. Its people would know of the treachery of Konoha, as those that managed to flee that day would see as their people were killed by Danzo's men and watch as they fought over the treasures of their family. They would flee away from their treacherous ally, going to countries like Rain and Grass. As for why this is important, why the legacy of a near-dead people affects the world. The Shinigami was not happy. As a god reviled by humanity, and diminished by the Sage of Six Paths, a demigod, he did not have many worshippers. In fact, it was common for him to take a priestess after death, as a bride for a century or two before moving on, as is the way of the gods. He did not like it when he was summoned and saw the land of Whirlpool in ruins, did not like honoring the contract, killing his worshippers, though took much relish in taking the souls of the invaders. He watched as his followers fled across the world, how they still held firm in their worship and how they were persecuted. For this he ordered that all who were citizens of the countries that destroyed his worshippers' home would suffer on the battlefield, that even those who might have been saved to be collected by his reapers and sent to an early grave. This decision would cause Tsunade to gain her fear of blood as she failed to save her lover Dan and Orochimaru's obsession with immortality when his parents died. It was after the Third World War that something changed. The Shinigami was being summoned, by someone he had not given his blessing to, but still he came if only because of curiosity. It is here that the world changed. A man was presenting an Uzumaki baby with blonde hair to him, asking him to seal the kyubi into him, asking him to seal half of the kyubi into his son. In front of the man was amazingly another Uzumaki using her spirit, the same thing the Uzumaki used to power their seals, to hold the kyubi in place, a worshipper of him, one whose soul was about to pass. Now what should be known is that the Shinigami is honor-bound to respect the rules of life and death, that his contract is binding. It should also be known that gods are forbidden from interfering in the affairs of mortals past a certain point. His policy on taking the souls of those close to death from the countries of earth, fire, lightning, and water already came close to breaking these rules. While these rules are also what stopped him from smiting all who hurt his worshippers, his servants, if only to avoid a war of the gods. However, it should also be noted that the Shinigami contract that summons him to this plane allows him to interfere in mortal affairs. It should also be noted that said contract has fine print written into it. He only had to answer the request of an Uzumaki, this man was not. So looking at the baby, he decided to interfere. First he grabbed the soul of the kyubi, the whole soul, and started to drag it from its body. It struggled of course, but it was just a fragment, a fifth of a fallen god. Against a whole god it stood no chance. Perhaps if he was doing as the mortal asked and split the kyubi, it could have lashed out, but it had no time. Dragging the kyubi soul into the baby he sealed it, the shiki fuin imprinting on the baby's stomach. "What are you doing?" I said. "To seal half into my son?" the blond man questioned. "Silence," he says, annoyed with the interruption, and with but a word the soul of the annoyance left his body and traveled into his mouth. "Uzumaki Kushina, you shall live this night," he says, pausing to remember the name of his follower before interfering once more, taking the ails of death from her body and allowing his blessing to heal her, while taking a small portion of her soul. Despite the pain she inclines her head. "Thank you, Shinigami-sama. I am honored for this chance with my child." Absently nodding, he approached the child. Taking note of the blonde hair, he flicks his hand, the color turning red, removing all non-essential genes of the man that summoned me. The baby will be a pure Uzumaki. The Shinigami saw no reason to sully him with what he believed to be inferior genetics. Now to bless him. "Young one, you have been gifted with a burden, but it can also be a great strength. You shall walk with me in death and serve as a reaper once your time has passed. But here on this plane you are my representative, and by proxy as you shall support me in death I shall support you in life. This is my blessing, this is our pact," he intones, giving the babe the power of healing, the ability to use his soul for the special fuinjutsu of the Uzumaki clan, and the longevity of his followers. The baby glowed as his blessing sunk in. Still there was more to do. Gliding his hand over the baby's stomach he applied one more seal, a soul catcher, imbuing it with the soul of Uzumaki Kushina, so that if she should perish her soul will go to her son. She shall be with her son, regardless of the machinations of these treacherous mortals. Feeling the air change, he can tell his time is almost up. For the price of this contract he cannot stay long. Already the gods are noticing, but that is fine, he will be done in seconds. Only one last thing to do. Pointing his finger down he opened the babe's soul, laying it bare before him, and whispered to him, "You will come to the Uzumaki mask storage temple when the time is right." With those words he takes his finger from the baby's soul and leaves, fading back to his domain in the afterlife. The boy will go to the temple, the location engraved into his soul. He shall feel the urge to put on his mask, and he shall tell him of his clan and of the treachery of humans. He will be the Uzumaki resurgent and unite his followers once more, and if perhaps he shall desire revenge on those who harmed his family, then all the better. With the baby, the female Uzumaki, Kushina, picked up her son as he began to cry. By her side was her dead lover and secret husband. Leaning her head down, she nuzzles his face. "It's okay, Naruto, mommy's here." It was over. The Kyubi attack is over. Staring into the eyes of my son I roll over the chain of events that had happened. A weird masked man had ruined the moment of my son's birth by showing up, killing my guards and threatening to kill him. If that was not enough, he then pulled the Kyubi from my seal, nearly destroying my chakra network, before ordering the damned fox to kill me, only for me to be saved. Then my husband, though secret, sacrificed his soul to summon my god, the Shinigami. Then my lord sealed the fox into my son and rewarded my loyalty by saving my life and letting me watch over my son, even giving him my red hair. All in all, a long night. My son is a Jinchuriki, my husband is dead, and I met the god of death. Widening my eyes I remember that the Shinigami healed me. Looking down, over my baby boy nestled in my arms, I can see my injuries are healed. Thinking quickly, I flare my chakra and receive the pleasant surprise of working chakra coils. I will be able to train my son. I will be able to protect my son. Truly, the powers of a god are not to be underestimated. The flare did attract attention, my Uzumaki life force and spiritual connection to the Shinigami having given us the famed but false Uzumaki bloodline attribute of large amounts of chakra. So it was no surprise when two people appeared in the clearing in black bodysuits and white masks on their faces, while an older man flanked by two more masked men brought up the rear. "Kushina, you're alive?" the older man asked. The man is wearing an old-fashioned ninja outfit, something more commonly worn during the Clan Wars era. His face is wrinkling and his hair is mostly gray, his age beginning to show. He is slightly battered and carries a deceiving staff over his shoulder, a staff that was really the Monkey King, Enma. This is Sarutobi Hiruzen. Yes, but Minato-kun didn't make it. Can one of you seal him for me? I do not want to disturb little Naruto? I ask, choosing to believe that Sarutobi's statement was joy at my surviving and not a question of how I was still alive when he is one of the people that knew I am the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Of course. Turning towards one of the Anbu he continues. Kuma sealed the Hokage's body. The Anbu Kuma stepped forward removing a scroll from his side. Likely he was the leader of this squad, as each Anbu squad carried one sealing scroll on hand and the captain is usually the one charged with the responsibility. Once he reached my husband, he unrolled the scroll and placed it on his body, before going through several hand seals and pressing down on the center of the scroll. Minato disappeared into the roll of paper, a symbol appearing on the scroll to show where he now resided. Come, let us go back to Konoha. Despite Hiruzen's gentle speech pattern, the Anbu set a perimeter around me, two in front, two in back, with Hiruzen by my side. This was an escort. As we walked, he turned to me. So is he the Jinchuriki? For a second I considered lying, saying that I was again the container, that was why I was still alive. After all, to my knowledge there had never been a case where a vessel had their biju taken from their body and survived. Perhaps I could have used the excuse of our non-existent bloodline, say that it had kept me alive long enough for Minato and I to seal the Kyuubi back into my seal. But I discarded. While chakra sensors were rare and knowledge of Fuinjutsu even rarer, it would have been a simple matter for them to notice the lack of said creature in my body. Not considering that a medical checkup for my son would quickly reveal the seal and the chakra of the beast inside. Yes. The creature my clan has kept for this village has been locked away, Sarutobi-sama. I quickly add the sama suffix to his name, knowing that this is not a conversation between acquaintances like when Minato was Hokage, but a conversation between myself and what is undoubtedly my next leader. By adding the suffix he will know that I have chosen to support him. A life-saving move, for while I believe him to be a good man, the temptation of a Jinchuriki unaligned with any clan and malleable might outweigh my own life. However, the temptation of a loyal ex-Jinchuriki teaching the current should spare my life if my fear should be true. Sarutobi seems to nod, before we continue our walk in silence. An uneasy silence made worse when we reached what used to be the main gate of Konoha. To be frank, Konoha is a mess. The main gate and much of the surrounding wall is collapsed, shinobi already working to clear the rubble. Further in, the barracks that housed the forces to protect the gate is gone, the bodies of various shinobi scattered amongst the remains. Past this, the training grounds have been decimated, leaving a clear path into the clan districts, where the Kyuubi had apparently been stalled if the damage is to be believed. From there the merchant district suffered heavy damage, and a heavy feeling of the toxic chakra of the Kyuubi remains, something that will poison the area for some time. That was likely the area where the Kyuubi fired its Baijidama. Looking over at Sarutobi, I see his face harden. He had lost his wife to this attack, and now he looked upon a ruined village. Konoha's military is weakened, its gate is destroyed, the clans have been weakened, and finally its economy would take years to recover. There would be a lot of hatred for anything related to the Kyuubi. Time to make an ally. Sarutobi-sama, the village will need a leader. I cannot be it, despite my studies for it, and my closeness to the previous Hokage. I am no experienced and I now have Naruto to take care of. The people will need someone they can trust, someone who has led them through troubled times before. They will need you, Hokage-sama. I apologize, I mean Sarutobi-sama. I say this with as much vigor as I can. The title of Hokage might have been my dream, but I have a family to take care of, and my connection to the Kyuubi will easily allow any detractors to rally support to their cause and see me overthrown. No, I will need to gain the trust of the next Hokage, and Sarutobi is likely to be it. I will need his protection for my son, especially since several shinobi have seen me return from where the Kyuubi disappeared with a baby in my hands. They will know that there is a Jinchuriki, and they will assume the vessel is the child in my arms. No, the secret of who's the Jinchuriki will be known to not just the people of Konoha, but to the world. I will need the Anbu to make sure my son survives, and Sarutobi can give me them. I see. Then I shall assume I have your support, Kushina Dano. Your support will be appreciated during the council meeting. It shall be taking place in an hour. Make the appropriate arrangements. Yes, Sarutobi-sama. I smile as I walk off. While Sarutobi had caught on to my political maneuvering, he had acknowledged it and agreed to accept my olive branch. He knew I would be helpful in the coming meeting. After all, people seem to have forgotten that, like my husband, I too studied to become Hokage, a position not just about strength but about words, politics. They seem to assume that I knew nothing of Minato's position. They could not be more wrong. While Minato was Hokage, I was his advisor at home. I saw how he played the game in person during meetings with the nobility. Yes, Sarutobi knows I am a good ally, a dark horse often overlooked due to my younger years, but I knew the game well. It did not take me long to grab Kakashi, a loyal student of my husband's and a friend of the family, to watch Naruto at my home in the Uzumaki district, a series of properties that were bought by Mito during the early days of Konoha, and that I expanded into a whole district during Minato's reign. Once there, I grabbed my ninja outfit, the standard uniform for a jonin, and put it on, making sure that the blood on my face stayed, a sign that I fought alongside the 4th Hokage against the Kyuubi, a show of strength. Turning, I looked at the hidden seal in the design at the top of a full-body mirror, and grabbed some key items. Taking a quick look into the mirror as well, I nod before putting my best stern face on and activate the security in the house. Now no one can get in, and those inside cannot access the house's secrets unless already keyed into the seal, of which only I am the only current living person that the seal will recognize. My baby and Kakashi will be safe. Getting to the bunker underneath the Hokage's tower where council meetings were held was a simple affair. The ANBU easily recognized me as the Uzumaki clan head and knew of the meeting about to take place. Once inside, I took my seat amongst the other clan heads and elders. Without a leader, we would not have to stand until the Hokage arrived. There also wouldn't be any civilians at the meeting tonight. Not for this vote. While civilians do have a say in the government of this village, they do not have a say in the election of the Hokage. The Hokage is the leader of Konoha and the leader of all ninja forces in Fire Country. This makes the Hokage a moderate noble amongst the daimyo's court, equal to the leader of the samurai forces of our country, and only lower in rank than the daimyo and their family. Usually the next Hokage is selected by both the daimyo and the current Hokage, but in times of emergency, either the Hokage or, if the Hokage is unavailable, the shinobi part of the council may select a temporary Hokage to be considered later by the daimyo. A formality, as the daimyo keeps a close watch on the council and is often in an amicable relationship with the Hokage, and thus trusts our decision. Taking in the council, I observe who arrives and, more importantly, who doesn't. The Hyuga clan head Hayashi Hyuga appears to be fine and settled, his face unreadable. He is an old player in the game of politics, raised from birth to assume the role. The Aburame clan appears damaged, its head changed as an old academy classmate. Shibi Aburame stands in as clan head. This would be his first meeting, and despite being the clan heir, now head, he has little experience. His influence will be little, and due to the nature of the Aburame is unlikely to contribute. Only listen to the arguments and pick the most logical choice. The Akimichi clan has their current leader Choshi Akimichi, an old man who has been part of the council since I was a little girl. He has stubbornly refused to pass his seat to his son Choza. Unlike his son, who takes after his wife, he is not a gentle giant, often wanting a more final solution to problems. However, he is pragmatic, and with Konoha in such a sorry state, it shouldn't be hard to win his support. The next is the Inazuka clan, being represented by Tsum Inazuka. She is not the clan head, that would be her husband, but the story behind that is easy to see in her demeanor. Her husband had either been killed in the attack or crippled. She has zero experience with these meetings and has never had interest in being a clan head, choosing to turn down the position and give it to her husband. According to her, she is too blunt for politics. Her emotional state will make her a wild factor in this meeting. The Kurama clan didn't show up, a messenger passing along a message stating that their clan compound had been in the Kyuubi's path and that their leadership is currently unknown. A sad prospect, as the Kurama clan is, or rather was, one of our bigger clans. For this meeting it is rather good, their views on politics being much like Danzo's, a more recent addition to the village elders and a former ANBU commander. The Nara clan is represented by Shikaku Nara, a seemingly lazy individual who became clan head when most members of our class were still chunin. Seemingly with no ambition, he has been an advisor to 2 Hokages, and was even the head strategist during the campaign against Earth Country during the last war. He was even a candidate for Hokage during the last election despite not having the power of the other 2 candidates, Orochimaru and Minato, on account of his intelligence. If he should develop an ambition, he will be my most dangerous opponent. This is not helped by his views on politics being unknown, choosing the best solution and not always a moral decision. My son may not be free with him in command. The Sarutobi clan, of course, is represented by the Hiruzen Sarutobi, a former Hokage and the candidate for Hokage that I am backing. Next to him would have been the Senju clan, but ever since Tsunade walked out of Konoha at the end of the Second World War, the Senju seat has remained unoccupied. Only the mercy of Sarutobi due to his past as her teacher, political favors from various nobles, and the fact she does not leave Fire Country stopping her from being declared a traitor. The Shimura clan occupied the next seat but remained empty, its vote being given to Danzo Shimura, an elder of the village. Normally, you are not allowed more than one vote, but with the state of Konoha after this attack, the Shimura clan decided to allow their old clan leader to act as proxy until such time as they have recovered from the QB attack. With no Hokage to contest this and the murky area of clan business, this has been allowed for this meeting. Sadly, this means the rival of my candidate already has 2 votes, equaling my own and the Sarutobi clans. The Uchiha clan representative is Fugaku Uchiha, a wild card in this selection, but not a candidate for Hokage. As I walked the streets to the tower, I could already hear rumors of how the Uchiha may have been behind the attack. Of how Madara Uchiha could supposedly control the QB. Complete nonsense if you asked me, but I wasn't alive at the time. The masked man also attempted to control the QB, but I doubt it worked. He may not have realized it, but the QB has dreamed of Konoha's destruction since it first got sealed into Mito all those years ago. Either way, it would take a coup for an Uchiha to become Hokage anytime soon. The final clan is the Yamanaka clan, represented by Inoichi Yamanaka. Part of the Inoshikacho, he would support his old partner Shikaku to become Hokage. His views since his daughter was born have been geared solely towards peace, wanting nothing to endanger his princess, a sentiment I can understand and appreciate. While he currently clashes with the clan head of the Akimichi, their old ally, the clan heir of the Akimichi is an old friend and shares his view. While not a power block vote at the moment, in the not far future they will have a 3-vote alliance. It would be wise not to alienate myself from them. The next are the elders. They are ninja that have survived wars and are trusted by the Hokage. The current elders were chosen by Sarutobi, even the most recent elder, Danzo. Minato in his close to 2 years in office would never get around to replacing the current elders. Besides Danzo, the other elders are Koharu and Hamura, both members of Sarutobi's team. They are pragmatic and see Jinchuriki as weapons but may be split in their support between Danzo and Sarutobi, both powerful leaders. Any others in the room would be for testimony, advice, or opinions. Altogether there are a total of 15 votes in this council. If there was a Hokage, there would also be a Hokage vote which counts as 3 votes. However, with the Kurama clan abstaining and the Senju clan gone, we only have 13. I only need to get a majority of the clans to vote for Sarutobi to win. 4 of these votes are already decided, mine and the Sarutobi going to the 3rd Hokage, and both of Danzo's votes to himself. That leaves 10 up for grabs, plus however many go to Shikaku and not if he is nominated. I shall start this council meeting. As the predecessor to the late Hokage, this is my right and duty. Today we have suffered a terrible tragedy. The Kyubi no Kitsune, strongest of the tailed beasts, has attacked our home and our loved ones. All of us here can feel their lose and have lost someone we hold dear. Sadly, we cannot yet grieve. Our enemies are watching, our home is vulnerable, and without a Hokage we may be inviting war. It is for this reason we sit here, we must choose a leader. Sarutobi begins taking a position of power by stating his former position and establishing himself as chairman of the council in one fell swoop. As expected of a former Hokage. Looking around the room, the Hokage continues. To that note, I shall now open the table to nominations. Think carefully on whom you choose. Not only will they be the leader of Konoha, but they will be in charge of every ninja in Fire Country and will lead them in times of war. Also, a Hokage will have routine interactions with the royal family. All candidates must be both strategic and diplomatic, so once again choose carefully. I nominate Shimura Danzo, bellowed the loud voice of Choshi Akimichi. I nominate Nara Shikaku, Inoichi states. I nominate Uzumaki Kushina, Fugaku contributes. I nominate Sarutobi, Hirozanai speak. Waiting a few moments for more nominations, Sarutobi clears his throat. Since I have been nominated for Hokage, I shall transfer chairmanship of this council to Hyuga Hayashi, so as to avoid an abuse of power. I shall accept this honor and uphold the honor of this council and the integrity of the title of Hokage. Hayashi states formally as he takes over chairmanship of the council. A powerful choice to give the position to, as the Hyuga will appreciate the show of trust. Already in Hayashi's mind he can see a favorable relationship with Sarutobi if he is willing to turn over chairmanship of a Hokage election to him. As for the nominations, I am slightly surprised at the open disagreement between the Akimichi and Yamanaka clans. It would not have been absurd to have assumed that they had talked in the time before the council and agreed on a candidate. Still, I expected a little conflict. No, what truly surprised me was the Uchiha clan nominating me for the position. While I am not surprised to be nominated, being a powerful kunoichi, a friendly person, and knowledgeable of politics, I did not expect the Uchiha clan to be the one to do so. Perhaps there is enough reason to worry about the rumors of the Uchiha being behind the attack, enough that they want an ally on the seat of power. My relationship with Mikoto, Fugaku's wife is not a secret after all. Now we shall give the nominators a chance to state their reasons, then the nominees shall state whether they believe themselves qualified for the job. Due to the nature of the disaster we are facing, we shall not be taking a recess, nor shall we allow for deliberation. The vote must take place at the end of this meeting. Also, until such time as we have a leadership, discussions on the reconstruction of Konoha will be put on hold until a later meeting. Are we in agreement? Hayashi mandates, setting down the rules of the election. How was the collective response? We all knew what is at stake. If Konoha cannot produce a new Kage and soon, the shinobi forces in our country will be leaderless, leaving our nation vulnerable to our opportunistic neighbors. The timetable has been acknowledged. Akimichi, Choshi, please explain your selection. Hayashi requests. I shall keep this brief as we all want to be home. Konoha is vulnerable, and as such the Land of Fire is vulnerable. Our enemies will not come with samurai armies or engage our teams during missions. No, they will come with sabotage and assassins, doing their best to break our economy and destroy our leadership. Then they will attack and we shall be left defenseless. The reason I nominated Danzo Dano is because we need our forces ready for these actions. The shinobi stationed here in Konoha are diminished and we will not recover our numbers so quickly, but Shimura Dano used to command the ANBU. He knows how such forces think and he knows how to use small numbers we currently have, to accomplish an objective. For our immediate safety we must elect Shimura, Danzo the 5th Hokage. Choshi explains, his words entrapping the other two elders, their heads already nodding to his words. Next, Yamanaka and Noichi. Why have you elected Nara Shikaku? Hayashi asks. I look around this room and I see our choices, 2 men that are past their prime, and a woman. While I have nothing against Shimura Dano or Sarutobi Dun, the other nations shall view it as a lack of Kage-level shinobi. It is also sad but true that most shinobi do not live to their 50s, not ones that have served where they have, and those that do not live past their 60s. Electing them will be a temporary fix, one maybe 5 years later we will have to address. The other nations will view an opportunity if we have cycled through leaders again so soon. Then our other choice is a woman. There has never been a female Kage, and while I have nothing against Kushina as a person, the other nations still look down on females. Yes, we know of Kushina, she is a powerful warrior, one of the strongest in our village, and the world still remembers the power of Tsunade, the weakest of the Sannin. But at the end of the day, the election of a woman will invite attack. It is sadly the perception of our world. I nominated Naradano because of several reasons. One is his age. With his election we shall have a Hokage for many years to come, one young enough that our children will be ones to debate on the next Hokage. The other is his strategic knowledge. Naradano is one of the most dangerous strategists in the elemental nations, known for outmaneuvering forces 3 times his own and decimating them. Such a man would silence the other nations, for none would want to fight such a man on his home turf. The final reason for picking him is because he is a balance between Sarutobi Dano's and Shimura Dano's ways, balancing aggression with diplomacy, as has been shown numerous times in this very council room. This balance will lead us away from war, warding off our enemies but not instigating a conflict, one that will involve our children. Inoichi's impassioned if not aggravating speech attracts its followers, the Aburame and a reluctant Inuzuka, the children part grabbing her support. Allowing a moment for the Yamanaka's words to settle, Hayashi turns to Fugaku. Uchiha, Fugaku, please give your reasons for why you nominated Uzumaki, Kushina. I will admit that I am being partly selfish in my nomination. It is no secret that Uzumaki Dano is a friend to my family. However, this friendship has allowed me to get to know her. She is an intelligent woman, knowing the most complicated of ninja arts, Fuinjutsu. My wife and I saw as she fought in the war and how it affected her, watched as she increased the Uzumaki properties into a whole district, and have seen her strength. I have watched her grow from a foreign orphan into a successful member of our society. She knows our ways and is both merciful and vengeful when appropriate. The daimyo and his family know her, just as they know Sarutobi Dano, as she served as advisor and confidant to the Hokage during the 4th Hokage's reign. Let us not forget how during the Second World War, when the public cried for vengeance for the people of Whirlpool, the daimyo used her to help propaganda during the war, meeting with her between several war rallies. None of the candidates are closer to the daimyo's family, the heirs to the throne. Finally, there is her lineage with the Senju to consider. By her legacy she is indirectly related to 2 of our Hokages. The acknowledgement of this lineage will soothe the people putting something familiar into power. Kushina herself is young and from a clan famous for their longevity and healing. With her as Hokage we could see an unprecedented stability in our leadership, and while not a strategist of Shikaku Dano's level, she is still quite feared on the battlefield. In summation, I believe that her familiarity with the current leaders of the world through her experience as the confidant and advisor to the late Hokage should be considered, as should her power and lineage connecting her to the first 2 Hokages. Fugaku concludes. His words seemed to have affected the elder Hamura the most, as well as the Nara clan head. If I actually wanted to be Hokage at this time, I would have to thank him. And finally, Uzumaki, Kushina, why do you think Sarutobi, Hiruzen should be Hokage? Hayashi finally turns to address me. I believe Sarutobi Dano should be the Hokage for several simple reasons. One is that Sarutobi Dano has already been Hokage and was Hokage longer than any two Hokages combined. During this time he faced many turbulent moments. Perhaps the most was taking command of a tired shinobi force after the second Hokage died during the Second World War. Yet he still led us to victory. Another turbulent time is one all of my fellow councilmen are familiar with, as we all fought during it, the Third World War. Even then Sarutobi Dano would lead us to victory. Whether we faced ninja or samurai or even Jinchuriki, we would survive, and we would persevere. Look around Konoha, our walls have been torn asunder, barracks have been shattered, clans decimated, and even the civilian quarter lies in ruins. This is not the time for a new leader, it is a time for a successful leader, and Sarutobi Dano has been just that. The truth is that we need a leader, a tested leader. You speak of the new blood and how it would be temporary, then let it be temporary, let him establish us once more. He can train his successor, take us as advisors, as generals, and when he steps down, he will know who is better for the job. That is why I believe Sarutobi Dano should be our leader in these desperate times. It is because he has been here, and he has succeeded. Can any others say the same? I finished my impassioned speech with a solemn note, catching many of my counselors up in the emotion, something I had learned from Minato. Sometimes you did not need fancy words, you just needed passion, and people that will listen, that will feel it, and then they will get swept up in it. Right now they are remembering the days of glory under Sarutobi, days we want to keep. Hayashi pauses and collects himself before addressing the council once more. You have heard the reasons for nomination, now let us hear from the candidates themselves. We shall start with Shimura Danzo. Konoha is vulnerable, it has lost its protection and has been brought into the light. The shinobi of our village have lost their appearance of invincibility, and like the samurai who die on the open field, we have been exposed as mortal. If I am elected, I shall get us back our mysticism, put a legend out there that only the mightiest demons of hell can harm us. We shall retreat into the shadows, we shall counter our enemies and eliminate those who threaten our homes. We will be feared, and most of all we shall be left in peace. Well, that was haunting, and the peace statement at the end was something I never truly expected Danzo to say. As he often says, there is always a war going on, it is his job to keep it silent. However, it is clear that if he is elected we shall become the assassins of lore once more, no more escort missions or D-rank missions, an interesting prospect. Nara, Shikaka, please state why you should be elected. After hearing the words of those who have spoken before me, I have decided that I will not accept my nomination to the Hokage seat. Instead I shall vote with Uzumaki Dano. Uchiha Dano is right, she is the prime candidate, while at the same time Uzumaki Dano is right in that Sarutobi Dano is a proven leader. If Sarutobi Dano should win, then as Uzumaki Dano has stated, I shall offer myself as his advisor while Uzumaki Dano can be his general. I shall see what my chosen candidate thinks. Since if I trust Uzumaki Dano enough to be Hokage, then so too must I trust her judgment on who should lead. Shikaka says, giving his endorsement to either Sarutobi or myself. I did not realize I had this much influence. Perhaps a contingency plan is in order. If Sarutobi turns out to be untrustworthy, then maybe an alliance can be made. One I can use to protect my son. Uzumaki, Kushina, would you give this council the reasons for why we should elect you? Hayashi continues with the proceeding after Shikaka's pledge of support to my cause. I too would like to withdraw my nomination for Hokage. I believe the fourth Hokage would have wanted Sarutobi Dano to be the next Hokage. After all, I should know best. Minato-kun was my husband. There were shouts of surprise and a call for order as I quickly pulled the paper I took from the seal in my mirror out. What I hold in my hand is proof of my marriage to Minato-kun, witnessed by Jiraiya of the Sannin, Sarutobi Dano, Hatake Kakashi, and the fire daimyo himself, Koshiro Nobunaga. With this document I can say with confidence that I would know my husband's wishes best, that he would want Sarutobi Dano to be the next Hokage. I laughed slightly in my mind. It might have caused a little chaos, but tradition states that the Hokage elects the next Hokage. What I had just done was throw doubt onto their choices, and now there was no chance for a rebuttal. In the back of their minds they will think about how I, the wife of the previous Hokage, the one who knew him best, had stated he would choose Sarutobi. Now all Sarutobi had to do was give a few convincing words and he shall once again be Hokage. Thank you, Namikaze. Hayashi begins before I interrupt him. Uzumaki. Minato-kun took my name. As of the two of us, I was the one with a clan. Minato-kun's name was legally Uzumaki, Minato. I state before I officially lose my clan name while also declaring a former Hokage as a member of my clan. It was true, Minato had married into my clan since there wasn't a Namikaze clan, just like a civilian would marry into the Hyuga clan. Yes, thank you Uzumaki Dano. Now Sarutobi, Hiruzen, please state why you should become Hokage. I believe I should retake my duties as Hokage because I believe I can bring stability and prosperity to Konoha once more. I believe that with your help, I will make us the strongest shinobi village once more. All I ask is that you put your faith in me just as your fathers did decades ago. Minato-sama was a good Hokage and he would have wanted you to be safe. Let me give you that safety. The same safety I gave years ago. With Sarutobi's words, the debate was over. It was now time to vote. You have heard the reasoning and from the candidates themselves. I shall now go around and ask each representative of their selection. You shall state their clan name if they have one when it is your turn to vote. After the vote has concluded, we shall have our new Kage. Hayashi says, giving the directions for how the voting shall go. The Aburame clan votes for Shimura Dano. The Akimichi clan votes for Shimura Dano. The Inuzuka clan votes for Sarutobi Dano. The Nara clan votes for Sarutobi Dano. The Sarutobi clan votes for Sarutobi. Both my Shimura clan vote and my elder vote go to Shimura. The Uchiha clan votes for Sarutobi Dano. The Uzumaki clan votes for Sarutobi Dano. The Yamanaka clan votes for Sarutobi Dano. My elder vote goes to Shimura Dano. Kohara votes. My elder vote goes to Sarutobi Dano. Hamura votes. The Hyuga clan votes for Sarutobi Dano. Concluding this election, with 5 votes for Shimura Dano and 8 votes for Sarutobi Dano is now the temporary Hokage. As per the code of this council, chairmanship shall go over to Sarutobi-sama. Thank you for once again choosing me as your Hokage. I shall strive to repay your trust with excellence. Now for our first order of business, go home, mourn for your losses, hold your loved ones, and burn your dead. Tomorrow we shall rebuild. With those words Sarutobi stood up and dismissed us. With a tired sigh and a crack of my back I stood up, sore and ready for bed, but Sarutobi signaled me to stay. Hokage-sama. I greet. Uzumaki Dano, just know that your loyalty today is noticed. This was all Sarutobi said, but he needn't say any more. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I say with a slight smile on my face. For now it seems that ploy has worked. My son will be safe. It did not take me long to reach the Uzumaki district and thank Kakashi for watching my son. It took less for me to curl up with Naruto on the bed. It was as I watched him that I finally allowed the day to catch up to me, all that I had lost, all of my exhaustion, and what I had gained. I will miss you, Minato-kun, but Shinigami-sama will take you to a better place. You shall go to paradise. For now, my love, until we meet again, I will protect our son. With that final thought I closed my eyes and went to sleep. With the election of Sarutobi, Hiruzen to assume the title of Hokage once more, Konoha quickly found its way onto the path of reconstruction. The third Hokage would contact the daimyo and receive permission to conscript samurai from the army to help with their rebuilding, getting the wall rebuilt in a matter of months through a combination of ninjutsu and manpower. While the garrison for its defense would be swelled by the addition of members of the Hyuga clan, their bloodline allowing those on the wall to spot and respond quickly to intrusions despite the limited manpower in the area. During this time the genin and the civilians would rebuild the civilian quarter, re-establishing the stores, businesses, and banks. There would also be changes to the area. The grocery stores that were exposed to the Kyuubi's chakra were burned and the food disposed of. All ninjas with knowledge of Fuinjutsu were called in, tasked with removing the Kyuubi's presence from the area. They succeeded, partially. The chakra stayed but no longer in worrying amounts, and would disperse in a decade or so. However, food was no longer allowed to be sold in the area and backdoor agreements were made to move the grocery stores to appropriate locations and replacing the abandoned area with blacksmiths, specifically those who used chakra metal in the hopes that the metal would absorb part of the Kyuubi's power. As for the clans, they too did their part. The Akimichi carried the needed stone and were great builders. The Aburame wove, creating clothes and shelter for those without, while rebuilding their hives to replace what was lost. The Hyuga, as previously stated, were guards for the village and also monitored the Kyuubi chakra, informing the workers when an area was safe. The Inuzuka hunted, bringing food to the village. The Kurama clan would act as healers, showing that they used their control over their chakra for more than just genjutsu. The Nara and Yamanaka clans worked together, creating salves and potions, the Nara from their deer, and the Yamanaka from their gardens, serving relief for both a strained medical force and for the citizens of their village afflicted by Kyuubi's chakra. The Sarutobi and Shimura clans would help with the rebuilding and volunteer their members for any missions they could, working themselves to exhaustion. The Uchiha clan would establish order, conscripting every member into the military police and enforcing a curfew. As for the lone Uzumaki family, Kushina, between watching over her son, would reinforce the new wall with seals, making the hastily constructed barrier strong. This road to recovery would not be without its troubles. Kushina had been right. The secret about her son's status would not be a secret for long. The people knew there was a Jinchuriki. Few understood Fuinjutsu and its complexity, and even those that did knew the terror a Jinchuriki could bring from previous conflicts. The people were worried, the people were scared, and they called for action. Sarutobi responded to these fears with acknowledgement, proclaiming Uzumaki, Naruto, a hero for holding back the Kyuubi, but was met with fear and shouts of protest. It would be during a council meeting that the matter was settled. Naruto's identity would be kept secret from the younger generation in the hope that the friendship between the younger generation and their Jinchuriki would foster loyalty to the village. During this time, Kushina had to reveal her own previous status so as to keep custody of Naruto, as the elders desired control of the Jinchuriki to belong to the state and not to a single clan. It was only through the sympathies of fellow parents, and her speech of how she would be best to train her son due to her previous status, that she maintained custody of her child. However, the damage was done. With the knowledge that Kushina had failed in her duties as a Jinchuriki, no matter the circumstances, the leadership had someone to blame, and began to subtly discourage business interactions with the Uzumaki district. Kushina, with little choice, was forced to spread her business outside of Konoha, even selling parts of the district to support this transition. Still, with the blame laid on her shoulders, she found herself forced into conducting trade with nearby lands, particularly the countries of hot springs and frost, allies of the land of lightning, a controversial venture for a high-ranking member of a ninja village. Sarutobi would respond to these problems by granting Kushina his support in her business ventures, rewarding her for her loyalty at the Hokage election. Kushina would also get her Anbu, Sarutobi declaring that the idea of a Biju bomb was not unknown, and he would not have the Kyuubi released because someone damaged little Naruto's seal. He even put down the thoughts of using Naruto as a Biju bomb to destroy one of the hidden villages of their rivals in order to direct the attention of the world elsewhere. Defeating these thoughts by referencing Kumo's Jinchuriki, and how they can call on the power of their beast whenever they want, saying how such a weapon would leave Konoha uncontested. Sarutobi's words, while not appreciated by Kushina, would protect her son. The Anbu would make sure no threat touched him, whether foreign or domestic. Sadly, with the citizenry unable to lash out at the baby and unwilling to fight Kushina, they would lash out at the Uzumaki's place of worship and ransack the Uzumaki mask storage temple, destroying the place of worship and leaving it in ruins. This action would go unpunished and the mob would be content. While Kushina would be furious, she would create a hidden altar in her home for the god of death and continue her worship in private, her son in a crib by her side when she prayed. Similarly, it was not just the Uzumaki clan that was affected by these revelations. With rumors caused by Madara's supposed ability to control the Kyuubi, and the absence of the clan head's family during the attack taking on a life of their own in the streets, the Uchiha found themselves being looked at with suspicion. Fugaku could not dispute these rumors for the embarrassment of admitting that he and his wife were passed out from exhaustion from certain activities while their son, Itachi, was out watching their other son, Sasuke. The admission alone would make a mockery of the Uchiha clan and had no guarantee of stopping the rumors. Fugaku would rationalize that admitting the truth would solve nothing. With a whole clan of suspects, and the commonness of clone jutsu, the people would remain suspicious. After all, Fugaku's greatest sin is his pride, and he cannot imagine a world without it. Sadly, this was just the beginning of the Uchiha's troubles. With their members enforcing the curfew and establishing order, the mob had people to direct their anger upon. They did not appreciate the idea that the ones that might have caused the attack were bossing them around, nor did they like the curfew in general. Still, the Uchiha would do their duty, content in the knowledge that the leadership of Konoha would continue to support them. That those who were their leaders would never believe baseless rumors, and that just as the suspicions cast upon them when Madara went rogue, they would pass. Perhaps the future would have been different if Kushina had never been revealed to the council as the previous Jinchuriki. The revelation of Kushina's status would be crushing, as would the identity of the new Jinchuriki. All of a sudden it was known that the Uchiha had access to the previous Jinchuriki, had knowledge of when she would be vulnerable. Then there was Naruto to consider. After the Kyuubi attack, Kushina had maintained the clan alliance between the Uzumaki and the Uchiha forged by her friendship with Mikoto. The council had to wonder, if the Uchiha were really behind the Kyuubi attack, then what was to stop them from using the new Jinchuriki to try again, to use a much more vulnerable Jinchuriki? The distrust bred from these revelations would cause the Uchiha to be isolated and their influence marginalized. The alliance born from an academy friendship would be strained and would only hold due to Mikoto's insistence, their lack of allies on the council, and the concession of Kushina to secure their compound with Uzumaki seals. The alliance would survive, but the added security would be noticed. Shimura, Danzo would begin to watch the clan, believing the Uchiha had something to hide. Outside of Konoha, the world watched and waited, and soon someone would take advantage. The daimyo of the land of lightning and the raikage of the village of Kumo would strike. The daimyo would order the raikage to test the land of fire's defenses and weaken them, to prepare the land for invasion from his samurai armies. Thus began a silent war between lightning and fire. Konoha responded quickly to the threat, appointing Shikaku once more as an advisor to the Hokage, and reinstating Danzo as leader of the publicly disavowed group, Root, the Black Ops of Konoha. Messages would be sent throughout the country as every shinobi garrison was put on alert, and the ANBU left Konoha engaging with their Kumo equivalent, Bolt, along the border of the Land of Fire. As tensions rose, samurai were mobilized by their commanders and allies were contacted. The elemental nations held its breath. If lightning and fire were to go to war, then the Fourth World War would begin. Then a miracle happened. A major shinobi engagement took place near the border of Fire Country, with heavy casualties on both sides, resulting in the death of the Bolt commander and the death of Choshi Akimichi, one of Konoha's counselors. The aftermath of this conflict would result in the Land of Lightning sending a diplomatic party to Fire Country. The world would take a collective sigh of relief as talks for peace began. During these talks, the diplomatic party from Lightning would eventually find itself in Konoha. Once in Konoha, treachery would take place. The shinobi representative from Kumo would kidnap the daughter of Hayashi Hyuga, Hinata Hyuga. He would then be intercepted by the girl's father and killed. Lightning would deny the entire incident, claiming an unprovoked attack, even having their current Reikage produce a copy of his ninja's orders. They demanded restitution for the loss of Kumo's representative, in the form of his killer. The Land of Fire disagreed, declaring the Land of Lightning dishonorable, and Konoha citing that Kumo's representative was caught in the act of kidnapping one Hinata Hyuga. However, with Konoha's evidence deceased and the lies provided by Kumo, the elemental nations began to apply pressure for a quick solution to their dispute. Under pressure from the other nations to find a quick solution and a lack of desire for another war not even 5 years after the Third World War had come to an end, it was decided that a treaty would be created under the observation of the Land of Iron and that Konoha would give up Hayashi Hyuga to Kumo. The Land of Lightning would be greatly affected by this deal. While Kumo received what they wanted in the finished treaty, they would suffer a heavy price, which would in the end amount to nothing, as Hayashi Hyuga's twin brother, Hisashi Hyuga, would take his place, the caged bird seal on his head denying Kumo the Byakugan even after his last breath. Kumo shinobi would be banned from foreign hidden villages, and would always be watched when on foreign soil, their shinobi now synonymous with the word untrustworthy. The Lightning Daimyo would have his control over his forces put into question and would suffer from an unfavorable treaty, enforced by the other daimyo. The loss of political power and trust would cause him to adopt an isolationist policy and become more militaristic, while censoring the power of the Reikage. Konoha would also suffer consequences from this agreement. They would gain the nickname tree huggers from certain factions and rival militaries and be viewed as pushovers, a view that would cause Nuke to interfere in their missions more often and for foreign shinobi to look down on them. This view would remain prevalent for many years despite efforts to correct it. Perhaps the one least affected by this treaty was the Fire Daimyo. He was able to paint himself as the skilled diplomat, establishing peace for his country and forging a favorable treaty, all with the sacrifice of one life. He would even take another wife, Lady Shirjimi, the sister of the current Lightning Daimyo, in exchange for the sacrificed Hyuga's life, giving himself away to install his own ruler in Lightning Country if something should happen to the daimyo's family, and if she were to produce a son. Yes, perhaps the greatest sin of the Fire Daimyo, Koshiro Nobunaga, is greed, but he is quite good at it. As for Kushina, she now found herself estranged from the Hyuga as well as the Akimichi, as her trade with the allies of the Land of Lightning, the lands of hot springs and frost, were well known. With the near war between her home and Lightning, those who conducted trade with their allies are looked upon with suspicion. This suspicion would bring up once forgotten concerns. The people would whisper of the worshippers of death, of how they killed for fun and for pleasure. They would speak of her being foreigner and not one of them, as they did in her youth. Then they would consider her connection to the Uchiha, the instigators of the Kyuubi attack, and of her connection to the new Jinchuriki. They would begin to feel fear, wondering if she would unleash the Kyuubi to sacrifice them to her dark god. Kushina would see these changes, but she could not run. Naruto needed her, and as long as he was a Jinchuriki he would be hunted. So she began to make arrangements. Moving her businesses once more, she began to traffic her products to a more disreputable sort. The kind with connections, the kind that can make people disappear, and began to entrench herself into their world. She would be ready. In 3 years she will be ready to disappear with her son, and to a place they can escape the fear. As Kushina grabbed her now 3-year-old son, and she began to lead him in a prayer to the Shinigami for safety and guidance at their small hidden altar, the Uchiha began to act. With the kidnapping of the Hyuga heiress and their connection to Kushina, people began to ask questions, wondering why the clan hadn't kept watch over the treacherous people of Kumo, and from these questions wild accusations began to form. One such accusation was that they were in on it, and were going to use the Uzumaki trade routes to smuggle the Kumo scum back to their village with the heiress safely in hand. The Uchiha had heard these rumors, said by drunken men, and saw how their supposed connection to the Kyuubi attack had poisoned the minds of the citizenry. It was perhaps this outlandish theory that put them over the edge. To the Uchiha clan, it didn't matter if one bitter drunk needed someone to blame. They were tired of the state of things. They had watched as the village they were loyal to turned their backs on them. They watched as their power withered and died until they had the influence of a minor clan at best. They watched as the rabble insulted their honor and called them traitors, accusing them of the Kyuubi attack. They also watched as their last ally, Kushina, the only one to stick by them, was persecuted. The Uchiha clan was done with it. They had decided that if they would not get the respect they deserved, then they will take it. It was on this day, in the aftermath of the treaty, that the Uchiha clan began to plan their coup. Meanwhile, in the Shimura compound, Danzo watched and waited. He gave no credit to the rumors, finding them ridiculous at best, but there were coincidences, and he did not trust either the Uzumaki or the Uchiha. The minute either stepped out of line, he would have his root bring them to heel, but for now he would wait. He knew his vice, paranoia, but in the world he lived in, it had always served him well. So it was that while the elemental nations avoided war, Konoha began to tick. A race against time had begun between Kushina, the Uchiha clan, and Danzo. Would Kushina be able to escape from Konoha with her son, or would the Uchiha clan launch their coup before Konoha can prepare, or would Danzo catch them in the act and have them executed as traitors? Only time could tell. A crow flew through the air over the village of Konoha, its cry echoing through the morning, as people went about their day. It has been 5 years since the Kyuubi attack, and Konoha no longer bore its scar. It had been rebuilt, and life had seemingly returned to normal. It is inside of one of these homes that a lesson is taking place, a lesson between a red-headed woman and a red-haired child, Kushina and Naruto Uzumaki. The both of them are wearing white robes with red lining, similar to what one would expect a monk to wear. The room is a largely empty room with a wooden floor and one entrance. At the rear of the room is a hidden seal concealed by the swirling waves that decorate the nearly bare walls save for one lone clock. In this seal is an altar to the Shinigami. In the center of the room, the two Uzumaki sit upon mats, their legs crossed. In the two corners by the entrance, there were practice weapons and sealing supplies, with a small table perched against the wall. This is the Uzumaki's secret place of worship, disguised as a meditation/training room. All right, Naruto-chan, name one of the tenets of our religion, Kushina says with an encouraging smile. All are equal in life as we are in death, for we are all judged in death, Naruto states with a smile, stumbling for a second before finding the answer. Very good, now do you know what this means? Kushina asks. Be a good person? Laughing, Kushina shakes her head. Yes, that's one way to put it. However, you missed the end, and all shall be judged by their deeds and goals, for in death all is laid bare. It is perhaps the most important tenet of our religion. Good choice. Ka-san, why are you a ninja then? Isn't killing wrong? Isn't it murder? The Uchiha arrest murderers, Naruto says, his face scrunching up as his young mind makes connections. Oh, you are so adorable. Kushina lunges and grabs her son into a hug, settling him onto her lap. Ka-san, I am serious. When I was visiting Mikoto Bazan, we visited Fugakudano at his work. People were talking about how murderers were bad. Yes, killing without reason is wrong, however we are judged by our deeds and our goals. I am a kunoichi because I love you and I want you protected, and I killed to protect my family and our lives. Kushina explains. But what if they're innocent? Innocent? Kushina prompts. Yeah, innocent. What if they have a family? Naruto asks. Placing her head on top of his, she speaks, then you must value your own life. What if I hesitated and didn't come back? No. You can't die, you're invincible, Naruto shouts, his young mind unable to imagine a life without his mother. Oh, if only that were true, Kushina thought before a teasing smile came to her face. I see you know the word invincible but not innocent. Perhaps because you aren't so innocent yourself, I've seen you manipulating others. Ka-san, I am innocent. Ka-san, what does manipulation mean? Naruto asks. Tricking people into doing what you want. Like when you pouted at Mikoto-chan to get a piece of candy, or like when you tried to make me breakfast to get out of trouble. You even tricked foreigners into shopping at our stores by putting a cute look on your store and telling stories of the other stores. I am so proud of you, Kushina says, squeezing him into her chest. Ka-san, Naruto whines. Releasing him from her hold, she takes him out of her lap. Naruto-chan, I want you to pay attention. Those that worship the Shinigami recognize the protection of one's family to be one of the most noble of deeds. It also views protecting one's life and the violent pursuit of justice to be acceptable as well. Yes, Ka-san. Good. Just remember, when you take a life, do it for the right reasons. Never put yourself in danger because you hesitated. Remember, if for some reason an innocent person, a good person, should die by your hands, that they will be judged by the Shinigami, and if they are truly a good person, then they shall see paradise. Life is a test and death is your reward. Kushina says, keeping her eyes locked on her son's, making sure she has his attention. I get it, Ka-san. If a good person dies, then they go to paradise. If a bad person dies, they go to the void. Naruto states. Kushina nods before looking at the clock on the wall. Now let us review what I have taught you about chakra and our techniques. What is chakra? The Konoha Academy defines chakra as a mix of physical and spiritual energies, while the Uzumaki defined chakra as a mix of physical and mental energies. Good. What are the basic uses of chakra? Chakra can be used for shinobi techniques, ninjutsu, genjutsu, and fuinjutsu. Naruto answers confidently. You forgot one. Taijutsu can and is commonly enhanced by chakra, with the basics of doing so being quite simple, while the advanced aspects can take many years of training and medical knowledge. Also, outside of the Uzumaki, fuinjutsu is deemed as a complicated shinobi art and is not treated as one of the shinobi basics. Kushina corrects. What? Why? Naruto questions. It's because unlike other clans, the Uzumaki were not a shinobi clan. We were priests that eventually received the Shinigami's blessing. In our temples we would often create charms to ward off evil, but when the Shinigami gave us his blessing we learned to use spiritual energy, and created the first seals. The fuinjutsu commonly used by shinobi today was created based off our own, due to the similarity between spiritual and mental energies. It is also inferior to our own techniques. Can you tell me why? Kushina explains before testing Naruto's knowledge. The fuinjutsu used by shinobi is inferior because of its complexity and for its lack of diversity. Shinobi fuinjutsu relies on each seal crafter to work the seal to their specific chakras, making the seal geared towards their chakra's affinities, and the balance of spiritual and physical energies in their chakra. Their chakra must also be released through the seal in the correct pattern, or it will not work. Also, almost all shinobi seals require at least one hand sign. I got them all right? Naruto states, a little worried. Fuinjutsu was a major part of his clan's history, and he didn't want to get it wrong. You got most of them. The others are that generic seals that any ninja can use, are in general weaker than original seals and require a lot of research before they can be created. Generic seals are also hindered by the fact that seal crafters guard their secrets from others, and the fact those that can be called seal masters would rather commit suicide than be forced to share their secrets. The final reason is that the Kages and samurai commanders would rather the more powerful seals not become public knowledge and instead encourage apprenticeships so that they can monitor the number of seal crafters. Kushina says, looking at her son's face. So basically seal crafters are secretive and people are scared of what seals can do? Naruto asks, simplifying it to a level his young mind can understand. Yes. Now tell me about Uzumaki seals. Kushina continues with her review. Our clan's seals are highly potent and come in various forms. This is because our clan was the first to create seals and one of the last to study the other chakra arts. It is helped by the fact that Uzumaki seals just require the use of spiritual energy to activate. Uzumaki seals are also hard to detect by those not sensitive to spiritual energy, only being detectable to sensors and those with bloodlines similar to the Hyuga, due to the similarity between mental energy and spiritual energy. You said it was like a hazy area or being hung over, something that will confuse them and could be overlooked. Ka-san, what's hung over mean? Naruto explains, drawing himself up with pride, before his face scrunched up into confusion. Laughing nervously, Kushina answered. It means that Ka-san was very foolish one night, and is not something you should experience. It's an adult thing. Now please continue. Hi. The greatest strength of Uzumaki seals are that they are simple to activate, not requiring the energy used to activate them to travel through a pattern in the seal itself. Also, some Uzumaki seals do not require hand signs to activate, just that you touch them long enough to pour in the right amount of energy. Sadly, there are zero combat seals that do not require hand signs. Naruto explains with a slight whine at the end, disappointed in the lack of combat seal that didn't need hand signs. Kushina laughs as she remembers saying something similar in her youth, picturing what must be going on in his head. Yes, it is rather disappointing. Now for your last question, what makes a great ninja? A great ninja is a skilled ninja. Naruto answers. Explain. A skilled ninja is one who is smart enough to use their power wisely. A skilled ninja is a prepared ninja, confident in their abilities. Naruto responds. Why doesn't power make you a great ninja? Power does not win battles. If your strength is found lacking, you will lose, If your enemy can dodge, you will lose. You will also tire faster from using wasteful energy. You do not need a ball of fire when a kunai would do the task just as well. Good. What about a smart ninja? Why is this not the key to being great? Kushina says with a smile on her face. A smart ninja reads and studies. They seek to trap their opponents and outwit them. If they are caught in the open, they are vulnerable and easily killed. A fast ninja? A fast ninja is better with his path clear and nowhere to stumble. Put obstacles in his way and he will fall. And what if stubbornness, or as some would call it, willpower? Does this make a strong ninja? That is a ninja that does not understand defeat. They will never give up and can be intimidating. They are also a dead ninja. A great ninja knows when to retreat and when to fight. Good. Now Sochi-kun, go get changed and packed. Ka-san needs to go on a mission and you are going to Mikoto-chan's house. She has agreed to watch over you for me while I am gone. Hi! Naruto exclaims before rushing out of the room. Kushina, while an overprotective mother at the worst of times, was okay with Mikoto Uchiha watching her son, as she had been her best friend since the academy. This was also helped by how safe the location was. The Uchiha were a large clan with over 200 active shinobi in their compound. She could agree that the area was quite safe for her son. This is also because Kushina added security seals to the compound, Uzumaki security seals, back when their alliance had been strained before the Kumo conflict. Now their compound had 3 types of Uzumaki seals protecting their compound. The first was an Uzumaki intent seal. The intent seal felt the soul of any who tried to enter the compound and would bar those feeling large amounts of negative emotions or killer intent. In its current state, it maintains a transparent field of chakra around the compound, including under, that will instantly repel those with negative intentions. It was flawed as clan members could still come and go, but the likelihood of someone killing their own family was small. It also needed a blood sample from all living Uchihas so that the seal would recognize them. The intent seal that she had used included a chakra conversion seal in it so that the Uchiha clan's chakra could power it, if she was not around. It should be left unsaid that Kushina left a back door in the seals so that she could get into the compound should anything happen to her son. The next seal is simply a life force seal. It is an Uzumaki seal powered by the Uchiha clan itself. It is a seal that was placed in the center of the compound with corresponding seals interwoven into the intent seals that surrounded the Uchiha's home. As with the intent seals, all currently living Uchiha had to donate a drop of blood so that they could be recognized by the seal. What this seal does is alert the clan, should one of their members die inside of the compound. While it is faulty in that it will alert even if one died of old age, the drawbacks are outweighed by its advantages. There are even 3 locations that have receiver versions of this seal and can sound the alarm if their clan should come under attack. These 3 locations are the clan head's house, and 2 buildings on the opposite sides of the compound. The last seal is an Uzumaki tamper redundancy seal. This seal does exactly as its name says, it checks for tampering. The seal is a classic of the Uzumaki, detecting when others attempt to bypass, destroy, have destroyed, or read their seals. It will shoot a flare into the sky upon noticing the intrusion. If it is being read, then it will destroy the seal if it does not receive the proper hand sign and a dose of spiritual energy so as to avoid the seal's secrets from falling into another's hands. The redundancy lies in the second tamper seal connected to the first, making it so someone would have to disable both seals to avoid detection. It is one of the greatest masterpieces of the Uzumaki clan, and one they agreed never to make a chakra version of. All Uzumaki tamper redundancy seals are run solely off of spiritual energy. The final layer in this seemingly unstoppable security is a shelter built under the compound. While Kushina only knew of the underground structure's existence, and not its purpose, she had made sure to put the barrier for the Uzumaki intent seal under the structure as was requested of her. This security, along with their number of active ninjas, would make the Uchiha compound one of the most secure places in all of Konoha. Feeling content in the knowledge, Kushina went to her room and changed her clothes into the standard Jonin outfit, pausing just a moment to stare at her stomach, remembering what used to be sealed there. With a shake of her head, she filled her kunai pouch, carefully counting what she put inside. Then she grabs a pre-packed backpack and puts it on, preferring not to seal it at this time. Finally, she grabs a scroll from one of her drawers and attaches it to a string along her waist. Tying her hair into a ponytail, she takes a moment to go over her mission. Alright, I managed to get a mission to Tea Country. My mission is to bring a scroll to a minor noble in Tea Country, quick and easy, just why I requested it. Not only will I get some easy money, but I have business in the country, and it's on the way. Now I have 10 kunai, 20 shuriken, and 2 explosive notes. If I am successful, then soon Naruto, and I will be safe, just 1 more year. Finished with inspecting herself, she walks out of her bedroom to meet up with Naruto in the hall, a small bag by his side. Did you pack a toothbrush? She asks. Yes, Ka-san. Clothes? Yes, Ka-san. Good, now remember no sweets past 8 o'clock and in bed by 9. I will be telling this to Mikoto-chan, so no funny business, she says, attaching a mock glare at the end. Yes, Ka-sama. Naruto responds, switching to the sama suffix upon seeing Kushina's glare. With a nod and a wide smile for messing with her son, Kushina opened the door and they stepped out, quickly moving to the Uchiha compound, where Mikoto was waiting for them. Thank you for doing this for me, Mikoto-chan, Kushina says upon seeing her. No problem. Naruto-kun is practically a member of the family, Mikoto replies. Okay, I have already told Naruto-chan this, but could you make sure that he doesn't eat any sweets past 8 and is in bed by 9? If he has sweets too late, he might not sleep well, and Kushina says, beginning to babble as she goes through her greatest battle before a mission, leaving Naruto with the sitter. Kushina, this is not the first time I've watched him for you. Naruto-kun will be fine, so relax. Mikoto interrupts, knowing full well how Kushina could get if she wasn't interrupted when it came to her son. She was the same with Itachi when he was little, but she had mellowed after the birth of her second child. Naruto-chan, wish me good luck on my mission, Kushina prompts. Good luck, Ka-san? However, rather than leave, Kushina remains standing there and looks at him expectantly. Now you know that is not how you say goodbye to me. But Ka-san, it's embarrassing and everyone's watching. Naruto whines while Mikoto begins to giggle good-naturedly at the scene. Oh, I see, my Sochi does not love me, oh woes is me. Where could I have gone wrong as a mother? Kushina says dramatically with a hand over her face as if she were about to faint. Ka-san. You're a great mother, don't cry. He rushes over, tackling her into a hug, missing his mother's smile of victory, before crying out when she gave him a kiss on the cheek. Ka-san! His cry was accompanied by the laughter of Mikoto and his mother. Alright, I am off to the Hokage's office and then I will be leaving to Tea Country. I should be back in a few days, be good. With that, Naruto's mother walked off. Come on, Naruto-kun, let's get you settled in, Mikoto offers as she guides him into the Uchiha compound. Wiping the sad look off his face at seeing his mother go, he turned to Mikoto and began to follow. Hi Mikoto-bazan, how's Itachi-san? Is he okay? I heard about Shursui-san. He said he will be out today, but I am sure that he will appreciate your concern. Now come on, if you get settled in quickly I'll give you a couple cookies, Mikoto responds. Let's go, Naruto exclaimed once he heard cookies, attempting to drag Mikoto to her home. All the while Mikoto laughed, enjoying the exuberance of his youth. It has been 2 days since Kushina left her son at the Uchiha compound, and she had already completed her mission. Now she stood inside of a small rundown-looking art store in a town near the border of the Land of Fire and the Land of Tea. She is currently wearing a civilian outfit with the scroll she took from her home by her side. Her eyes are scanning the art on the wall as she approached the counter, but if you look carefully you could see that she always kept the man behind it in sight. The art on display at the store is hideous, poor imitations of the great works, and the store would usually be lucky to see a customer, much less be one she would enter. However, the art is not what this store truly sold, it was just a cover. No, what made this store valuable is the man behind the counter, one Tsuru Gizo. Gizo is a man almost completely average in appearance, perhaps slightly below, with black hair and a thin frame. He is not particularly muscular and lacks any measurable amount of chakra. This unassuming man in his 40s would usually be overlooked if not for one thing. Gizo Tsuru is a forger of extreme skill. The store is a front for his business, and the art on display a ruse to throw off the authorities. His skill in forgery is commonly used for the creation of government documents and the occasional piece of art. The documents he forges can even be buried into government records if one had the connections. This man is the one who forged the documents for her family's new identity, documents that will become official in just 1 year's time. Gizo had forged for her an entire history of her supposed life in tea, from her birth records to her business dealings. It is he who she had business with. Ah, Scarlet-san, welcome, welcome, it is good to see you once more. Are you here for the art, or something a little more discreet? Maybe you will finally grace me with your true name, after all we are business partners. Gizo speaks upon noticing her entrance. I would rather keep this discreet if you don't mind, Kushina answers. One moment. Gizo gets out from behind the old counter and goes to the front of the store, flipping the open sign to closed and lowering the blinds. When he returned, he once more addressed Kushina. So Scarlet-san, what business do you have for me today? Or is this about your name? No, this is for business. Besides, you know my name is Scarlet Aki, you were the one who put it on my birth certificate, Kushina says with a good-natured laugh. Laughing, he replies. Now we both know that isn't true, but for now business is good. His words showing his comfort with someone he had maintained a business relationship with for slightly over 2 years. I need information, Kushina states simply. You know that is not what I traffic in, Scarlet-san. I am not sure how I can help you, he says simply. Oh, but I am sure you can. You see, I need information on one of your customers. Kushina quickly responds, her voice soft and playful. You know my rules. I cannot talk about my other customers, he says, his face becoming hard and losing its playful tone. I don't care what you did for him, I just need a confirmation. Is it true that you did business with Jiraiya? She asks, her voice developing a dangerous edge. I do not know who that is. Perhaps you should leave. We would not want to sour our friendship with such questions. Gizo answers, reaching for a knife under the counter, uncomfortable with how the conversation is turning. You sure you don't know him? He's one of the Sannin, really tall, has white hair, and weird marks running down his eyes. If that doesn't help, he also writes the Ika Ika books that seem so popular nowadays. Kushina says, her tone now completely predatory. No, now I really think you should leave. Gizo states, a nervous chill going down his spine, his hand tightening around his knife. You absolutely sure you don't know him? He didn't happen to stop by a month ago and make a deal with you? Are you absolutely sure? Kushina says as she begins to touch the scroll by her side. Leave now. Our business is over. I will not hurt you in light of our past business together. Gizo demands, drawing his knife and pointing it at her, secure in the knowledge that he could defeat what he thought was a civilian woman. No, I don't think I will. You see, I don't like liars, and I think you have been telling lies. You really shouldn't tell lies, Kushina says as she dashes forward, slapping his knife out of his hand and dragging Gizo over the countertop, before kicking the scared man to the ground. It's too bad, Gizo-san, I guess you will never know my name, Kushina states, her tone hard as she unrolls the scroll by her side before releasing the content within. Grabbing the item in her hand, she reveals it to be a sword. You can't do this. People will know. The police will investigate. Gizo whimpers, his voice desperate. Don't worry, I won't get caught, Kushina says as she approaches his downed form, sword in hand. Gizo truly looks at the blade that is to end his life for the first time. It's an old and battered thing that only a thug would use. He knew that if an investigation started, the case would remain unsolved, just attributed to some punk kid with a sword and not the well-kept woman in front of him. Please, I have a family, he says in a last attempt to save his life. The sword swung, slashing through his belly. Gizo shouts in pain as the life begins to leave his body and his eyes grow heavy. And I am protecting mine, Kushina states resolutely. Sorry, Gizo, but I couldn't let you live. When Naruto and I disappear, Jiraiya will come looking for us, and with his money and resources you would talk the moment he asked about a red-headed woman and her child. As Gizo drew his last breath, Kushina began to finish her plan. She opened the register and took the money from inside and left. Gizo had been a forger for years and had a reputation for destroying the evidence of his dealings. It was why he had been trusted. It had only been Gizo's relationship with Jiraiya that had caused Kushina to kill him. Meanwhile, in one of Konoha's wooded training grounds, Itachi stands in his A&B uniform, his tanto on his back, and 2 kunai holsters strapped to his sides. Currently, Itachi is staring at the ANBU mask in his hands, seemingly lost in thought. Having doubts? A voice says from behind the young ANBU. No. Will you honor our deal? Itachi asks, turning to face the voice. As he turns, it reveals a man dressed in black, a swirling orange mask on his face. I will honor our deal. Konoha will be left alone. Good. Madara-sama, if the attack is to work, we will need to neutralize the 3 CO relays in the Uchiha compound. I can take down 2 of them, my own home and the eastern relay, but I will need you to take out the western relay. Can you do it? Itachi asks. Remember who you are talking to. I have yet to encounter a seal that the power of my eyes could not overcome. The orange-masked man rebukes. Then the attack will begin at 2200. During the attack, my brother is not to be harmed. Itachi clarifies. Of course, the masked man says, an amused smile hidden behind his mask. 2200. Inside the home of the Uchiha clan head, Fugaku watched as his tired wife entered the bedroom. Are the children asleep? Finally, Sasuke-chan and Naruto-kun have exhausted themselves, are finally asleep, Mikoto says with a tired sigh and a small smile on her face. Well, Kushina-san did say not to give Naruto-kun candy past 8, and then you had to give some to Sasuke-kun as well. You know Kushina-san is going to tell you I told you so, Fugaku teased. Mikoto smiled at Fugaku's relaxed demeanor, something that he only showed in the privacy of his home and around her, and while she wished he would show it more to their children, it still made her love him all the more. Not funny. We are not telling. Mikoto's words would be silenced when Fugaku tackled her to the floor just before his adjoining office to their bedroom exploded. A sound that was echoed from the east, while a flare shot in the west. The compound had fallen under attack. Get the children and head to the bunker. Fugaku shouts, ignoring the heat to his back. On top of the smoking wreckage of the building that housed the Eastern CO relay, Itachi stood clad in his ANB uniform, mask on his face, his hands locked together in a seal. He had just set off the explosive tags he had hidden in his father's office and just now around the Eastern relay. He would have placed more, but he could not risk the chance of discovery. However, things were not going to plan. The plan had been for Madara to destroy the Western relay and leave the clan blind as to what was going on. They would know they were being attacked, but they wouldn't know who was attacking and where they were being attacked from. Madara and Itachi would then use the confusion to pick off the Uchiha one by one. Now the Uchiha would know where they were being attacked. The moment one of his clansmen died, they could organize a counterattack. For now Itachi would head towards the Naka Shrine, the Uchiha's place of worship for the Sage of Six Paths, and the site of many of their secrets, including the bunker. With a mighty leap, Itachi left the burning building and began his attack. As Itachi drew his tanto to cut down a confused Uchiha as the man was leaving his home, Itachi's thoughts turned to Madara. I wonder what happened. Why did the flare go off? Itachi's companion was currently staring at the ground in confusion. He could not understand why his Kamui had not worked. He had no idea how a seal could stop him from getting into the compound. Curious, he had searched for the seal and found it. It had been a curious thing, seeming to have little chakra in its build. So he had attempted to study it, only for another seal to activate and stop him from reading it, even shooting a flare into the air. The masked man wasn't happy. He had failed to destroy the Western relay and a seal had stopped him from using his Kamui to enter the compound. Then when he found the seal, another seal had stopped him from studying the first seal. Okay, I will work on the second seal first, and then I will study the second seal. The Uchiha clan can wait. A seal that can work against my Kamui could cause trouble when I begin to collect the Jinchuriki. Reaching out, the masked man began to unravel the second seal. The man worked carefully, ignoring the screams coming from the compound as the seal began to unravel. Careful, careful, there could be traps. Almost there. The seal had begun to unravel, spreading across the ground. It seemed that the masked man would unlock its secrets before the seal began to glow, and the writing began to disperse into little flames. Quickly the man stepped back, wary of the flames, and not confident in whether his Kamui would protect him so soon after its initial failure. I hate seals, he said simply as he watched the seals burn away and a second flare shoot into the air. He watched as a barrier surrounding the Uchiha compound flashed into view before shattering, his tampering having managed to destroy the wall that separated him from the Uchiha clan. This isn't good. That and 2 flares will be noticed and ANBU will be on their way. Itachi's mission wasn't exactly public knowledge. I can't afford to be found this early in the game. With that thought, the masked man used his sensor ability to locate Itachi while idly taking note of several ANBU squads moving into the compound, before disappearing in his Kamui. The masked man had to protect his investment. Inside Sasuke's room, 2 boys were awoken to the sounds of an explosion. Their eyes filled with fear as Mikoto burst into the room telling them that they had to go. She reached out her hands and grabbed both Naruto and Sasuke, rushing them through the house. By the entrance of the house, Fugaku would stand with a drawn sword in his hand and a stern expression on his face. Naruto would watch as they moved towards the eastern side of the compound, towards the Naka Shrine. He would hear the screams of those he thought of as a second family, his mind filled with panic as he watched Uchiha children hurry down the street. All around him children were crying while those who were ninjas rushed by his tiny body, armed, if a little underdressed at times, heading towards the sounds of the screams. Turning his head, Naruto would watch as a second flare shot into the air behind his extended family and as the air around the Uchiha clan glowed, forming a dome around the area, before shattering, chunks of energy falling from the sky, burning up in midair before reaching the ground. As they turned the corner, Naruto watched as a half-dressed shinobi drew his kunai and stepped in front of a group of children, blocking a wave of shuriken, only for several to be disguised by an unnoticed genjutsu. The shuriken would slam into his throat, and several of the children behind him. A squad of dressed Uchiha would take his place, likely guards of the compound. Fugakudano, get your family to safety. We shall hold off the enemy. Go now! Shouts an Uchiha wearing a captain's uniform of the Konoha military police. Thank you, Fugaku says before turning to his family and Naruto. Come, we have to go. The squad of Uchiha would stay behind as Fugaka led his wife and the children to safety, content in the fact that if they should die, that they had saved their leader and the innocent. Be careful. They used the genjutsu to hide their weapons, be vigilant. Don't let your guard down. The Uchiha captain states as his Sharingan scanned the area. A single kunai would be launched towards the group and explode in a flash of light. Once the Uchiha were blinded, Itachi dropped upon them, slicing through 2 members of the squad before their eyesight started to clear. The captain would be the first to notice him, his vision still blurry. He would draw a kunai and engage Itachi in combat. Shidori-san, go warn the others, it's the ANBU. The Hokage is attacking. The captain would shout out, not recognizing Itachi with his affected vision. He had ordered his squad mate, Shidori Uchiha, to leave and warn the rest of the Uchiha clan. Hi. Shidori Uchiha said before turning and running towards the nearest Uchiha squads to spread the word. We may lose, but we will make the Hokage pay for every life he takes, he thought as he retreated. I can't allow him to get away. Itachi thought as charged forward, intending to intercept the fleeing Uchiha. The traitorous Uchiha would abandon this idea as the captain of the Uchiha squad intercepted him. Once the captain had reached Itachi, he had swung his kunai only for the traitor to dodge, leaping backwards before the captain's kunai could slice through him. It's not going to be that easy, the captain stated, pressing the attack. I can't let this ANBU create any distance. If he has been skilled enough to get this deep into the Uchiha compound on his own, who knows what ninjutsu he knows? I can't let him form any hand signs. Itachi responded to these attacks, blocking them, reading them, learning his attacker's pattern before preparing his counterattack. The captain, swinging his blade once more, was unprepared for the parry that met him, knocking the arm that held his kunai to the side and leaving him open to the thrust of Itachi's tanto. It is only thanks to his Sharingan that the captain dodged the strike, his eyes predicting the attack, and allowing him to step to the side to dodge. With the attack dodged, the captain stepped forward, getting close to the traitorous Uchiha, and brought down his left arm, his weaponless arm, down and over Itachi's sword arm, trapping the arm to his side as he brought his kunai around once more. I've got him. He can't form hand signs and he won't break my hold in time. Wait, what? The Uchiha captain thought as his kunai was less than a second from burying itself in Itachi's chest, only to be caught off guard when the ANBU he held turned his head to the Uchiha and met his eyes. He's an Uchiha. This would be the last sane thought of the captain as he noticed his captive's eyes for the first time. The 3 tomoed eyes of the traitorous Uchiha began to morph, taking on a new design, racing against the approaching kunai. Tsukuyomi. Itachi whispers once his eyes finish their change, a little shuriken-like design replacing their original 3 tomos. The captain was trapped, frozen in place, his kunai nearly touching the skin of Itachi's chest. With the captain frozen in place, his mind broken from the technique, Itachi extracted himself from his hold. You fought well, Itachi said before thrusting his blade into the now collapsed Uchiha's chest. Taking a deep breath, Itachi considered his next action. He could go after Shidori and stop him from informing the rest of his clansmen of his attack, but the man was already gone, his message probably spread. Or he could continue to head to the bunker and catch his parents before they get there, the children likely having slowed them down. My parents have to die. Without them, the Uchiha clan will not have the leadership needed for the coup. If they survive, then all of this has been for nothing. Ignoring the strain in his eye and the depletion of his chakra, Itachi brought his hands together into the sign needed for the Shunshin no Jutsu. Once Itachi had gathered the appropriate chakra, he disappeared into a puff of smoke. Itachi was heading straight to the Naka Shrine and his parents. On the western side of the compound, 3 ANBU squads had entered the Uchiha compound and had begun to advance towards the center of the compound. Taicho, it's deserted. Where is everyone? I don't know. Be on the look, take cover, the ANBU captain shouted. From the rooftops, Uchiha clan shinobi cast the Katan, Phoenix Flower Jutsu, spraying a rain of tiny balls upon the ANBU squads in the street, while others cast the Doton, Earth Wall Jutsu on the ends of the street, trapping the ANBU in the streets below. The ANBU screamed as the fire from the ambush rained down upon them, killing most of their number, while the Uchiha watched as the fire consumed the ANBU and spread to the surrounding buildings. From these flames, the captain that shouted the order emerged with 2 others behind them, leaping to the rooftops. In the captain's hand he held a flare, an ANBU issue flare. He would aim the flare into the sky and shoot it into the air, unleashing its content into the sky where it would explode into a shower of sparks, informing all shinobi squads that they were under attack. You won't get away with this, he shouts as he engages the closest Uchiha in combat, idly taking note of the clothing he wore, or rather the lack thereof. The Uchiha is only wearing a pair of pajama pants and hastily put on, mismatched sandals. The ANBU takes advantage of his exposed state, engaging him in close combat, confident in that his armor would protect him from the Uchiha's blows, while the unarmored Uchiha would quickly fall to his. It works. The unarmed Uchiha is defenseless, his strike striking metal, bruising his own hands, while the ANBU quickly tears apart his unprotected body, before tossing the Uchiha to the flames below. As the body falls into the flames, an Uchiha female shouts, "No! Inabi!" Quickly forming hand signs, she poured her chakra into a large katan, great fireball jutsu. From her mouth would come a large fireball that would crash into the building, engulfing the building and the ANBU captain in flames. All across Konoha, people would awaken as the alarm was sounded, telling the people that their village was under attack. ANBU, Jonin, and Chunin would rush to the spot where the flare had gone off, while other Chunin and Genin would attempt to calm the civilian populace. In the Hokage Tower, one Sarutobi, Hiruzen would be disturbed from his late night at work. He would look to the Uchiha compound and see the flare, cursing under his breath. He would open his window and join the swarming shinobi. In another section of the Uchiha compound, we once more see Shidori Uchiha. He had managed to inform several members of the Uchiha clan of the ANBU attack, who had in turn spread the message. Now he stands in command of a small group of Uchiha shinobi near the eastern end of the compound. "Shidori-san, there is a large group of shinobi heading this way, perhaps 30, no 40 of them. What are your orders?" A female Uchiha questions, her sensor abilities picking up on the approaching enemies. "There are only 8 of us, and not all of us are Jonin, some of us are Chunin. Against those numbers we would be crushed, and the Hokage won't be sending weaklings. No, we can expect our enemies to be ANBU or Jonin. But we can't let them get by us. We are the last thing standing between them and the Naka Shrine, we have to hold." Shidori thought as examined the situation. "Set fire to the buildings," Shidori ordered. "Sir?" one of the shinobi under his command questioned. "We must neutralize their numbers. Buildings can be rebuilt, but the lives of the Uchiha clan cannot be untaken. Burn the buildings, force them to take this road." Shidori spoke. "I cannot retreat, not after the captain. I don't care if it was an order or the right thing to do, I still left him to die. I will not allow these sage-damned bastards to reach our children. We shall hold this road till our last breath." "Hi, Shidori-san," the surrounding shinobi responded. "Good. Now, how long until the enemy reaches this location?" he questions, pointing to the sensor kunoichi under his command. Taking a moment to concentrate, she quickly locates them. "Not even 3 minutes. Keep tracking them and stay with me, I want to know exactly where they are. Now, of the 5 Jonin here, excluding myself and her, how many of you know the Katan, Fire Dragon Jutsu?" Shidori asks. 2 of the shinobi raise their hands. "Good, then this is the plan. You 2 will move to the rear of the group, you are to gather your chakra, and when I give the order you are to unleash the largest Katan, Fire Dragon Jutsu of your lives on our enemies. Everyone else except our sensor here will cast small fire jutsu on the buildings. Chunin, be careful with your chakra, I can't have you exhausted before the battle. Now go," Shidori orders. Across the entire roadway, buildings were set aflame as small-scale jutsu like the Phoenix Fire Jutsu and the Great Fireball Jutsu were unleashed. Soon only the road was clear of the flames, the only safe path through the area. "1 minute!" the sensor shouts. "All right, hide quickly if you must, use the smoke to hide your presence. Once the fire dragons are unleashed, use the confusion to your advantage, cut them down," Shidori orders before turning to the sensor he had hidden near. "By the way, I never got your name." "Is now really the time?" the sensor replies. "Can't think of a better time," Shidori responds. The sensor hesitates for only a second, Setsuna. Shidori smiles before turning his attention to the road. Already he can see the silhouettes of the approaching shinobi. He tenses and grabs his kunai, waiting for the right moment. The moment came quickly as the shinobi sprinted past his position heading towards the end of the road, where the 2 hidden Jonin were waiting. "Now!" Shidori shouts. From the end of the road 2 massive Katan, Fire Dragon Jutsus were unleashed, catching the encroaching shinobi off guard and incinerating half their number. From all around the surviving shinobi a barrage of kunai, shuriken rained down upon them as the hidden Uchiha endeavored to take advantage of the confusion. "Kunai Kage Bunshin," just as Shidori intoned, launching the kunai from his hand and watching as multiple copies appeared in the air before crashing into the confused shinobi. He was glad he had accidentally copied this jutsu when he was a genin serving under the current Hokage during the Second World War. "Charge!" Shidori gives the final order, his Sharingan flashing into his eyes as the men and women under his command rushed the survivors of their attack. The battle wasn't long. The few survivors of their initial barrage were easily overwhelmed by the Uchiha forces. However, 2 of the Uchiha had perished, 1 Jonin and 1 Chunin. "Shidori-san, more hostiles incoming," Setsuna warned. "Quick, check the bodies for explosive tags. We will mine the road. I know some of you are tired, but we are fighting for our families, for children, we cannot falter. Make the forces of the Hokage pay for every life he has taken this day. For the Uchiha clan," Shidori shouts, lifting the spirits of the Uchiha once more. All across the Uchiha compound battles were taking place, and the death toll began to rise as more and more Uchiha and Konoha shinobi began to die. It was not long till the entire compound began to burn, as ninjutsu ravaged the area and the fires spread unchecked. The Uchiha compound had become a battlefield. At the Naka shrine, Fugaka had already guided the children inside of the bunker when he felt a shunshin incoming. Grabbing his wife, he threw her into the bunker and slammed the door. "What, Fugaka-kun, what are you doing?" Mikoto cried out. "Live. You must live, not just for our children but for all of the children of our clan. Please stay in there," Fugaka said as he turned his back on her, a couple of tears falling from his eyes. "Fugaka-kun," mumbled Mikoto as she pressed her tear-stained face to the small window of the bunker. Feeling the shunshin end, he watched as Itachi appeared, his ANBU uniform stained with the blood of his clan. "Hello, Tusan?" states Itachi, his voice slightly strained from the loss of chakra he had recently suffered from his actions. "Itachi, I see that you followed the Hokage in this affair. You know I can't allow you in that bunker," Fugaka said, sadness seeping into his voice at his own son's betrayal. "Your actions would have led to war. The clan had to be sacrificed. I will not apologize for my actions," Itachi says, a sliver of emotion leaking into his voice. "I believe we are past the point of apologies," Fugaka said as he went through the hand signs for the katan, great fireball jutsu, and shooting it towards his son's feet. Itachi dodged, but the resulting smokescreen caused by the fire's contact with the ground allowed his father to slip into his guard, his sword swinging. With little time to dodge, Itachi attempted to block with the metal arm guards of his uniform, succeeding but still suffering as the resounding impact hit with bruising force and knocked his arm down, leaving him open for the quick slice across his chest, ruining the armor of his uniform. "That was close. If I wasn't wearing armor I would be dead. I can't afford another mistake," Itachi thought as he brought his tanto to bear and his eyes shifted to the Mangekyo Sharingan. "You are foolish, son. You are tired and your chakra is low. You may be the better shinobi, but in your condition you can't beat me." With that, Fugaka charged forward, his Sharingan blazing. However, before Fugaka could swing his sword, Itachi cast a quick genjutsu, altering his father's perception of where Itachi was standing, causing Fugaka's sword to swing too early and knocking the man off balance. Fugaka's eyes were already working to dispel the illusion, but the damage was done. Itachi stepped forward and brought his tanto down, slicing his father from his left shoulder to his pelvis, and removing the hand holding his sword. This is what made Itachi such a great shinobi and why he is considered such a powerful shinobi despite his young age: genjutsu. While Itachi is quite skilled in ninjutsu and taijutsu, even kenjutsu, it is his talent in genjutsu that allowed him to be great. Itachi knew that in a shinobi battle, long drawn-out conflicts are the rarity and not the rule, that the first mistake is usually the only mistake. It's why he used genjutsu. It allowed him to determine when the mistake would be made. Even if his opponents had something that made genjutsu ineffective, there would still be that second before the technique was dispelled that he could take advantage of. This is why genjutsu is Itachi's favorite and preferred shinobi art. As Fugaka was cut down, inside of the bunker, Mikoto bit her tongue, holding in a scream, and turned away. Her husband had been killed by her eldest son. She could not bear to watch anymore. She instead turned to the children in the bunker and started to give comfort where she could. They would be traumatized. Naruto and Sasuke had both seen other children cut down before their eyes, seen the twisted bodies of the dead, and the flames of war. She would give them the comfort where she could, just as she would take comfort from them. Outside of the bunker, Itachi examined the door, looking for a weakness in its defenses, before a voice came from behind him. "Don't bother. I created that bunker during the early days of Konoha, in case this Senju-controlled village should turn on the Uchiha clan. Even if you could break it open, the bunker holds the clan's summoning scroll to the cats. They could simply be reverse summoned to safety. Now come, the night is over," the masked man posing himself as Madara says, reaching his hand out to the traitorous Uchiha. "Very well, but Madara-sama, where were you?" Itachi asks with a tired sigh. He could hear quite well that his mission had failed, as the sounds of war filled the air. "I came across an interesting seal. Now come, the Hokage approaches," Madara says with an air of superiority. Nodding, Itachi accepted the masked man's hand and together they disappeared into the man's kamui. With the Hokage's arrival, the fighting quickly began to end as he sounded a general order for a ceasefire. With the order given, the Uchiha fell back to the Naka shrine and waited until Sarutobi appeared once more, a force of Jonin and Anbyu at his back. This is not how it was supposed to happen. This is a nightmare, Sarutobi thought as he approached the bunker. Standing in front of it was Mikoto Uchiha, who had come out of the bunker to represent her clan. Behind her, the surviving Uchiha clan shinobi stood prepared to fight if the violence should continue. "We need to talk," Sarutobi says plainly. His eyes locked onto the Uchiha matriarchs, staring into them without fear. Ignoring the tingle in her eyes, Mikoto looks around the ruined district and the battle-weary shinobi from both sides, before locking her eyes once more with the third Hokage. "Yes. I believe we do." Meanwhile, during the battles at the Uchiha compound, Kushina was on a road in Tea Country. Rather than camp out, she had decided to follow the road to the next town within and not an hour away. It is as she was walking that she heard a sizzling sound come from under her feet. Alarmed, she leapt away as the ground exploded. Focusing on her sensor ability, she discovered the ground had been mined with generic explosive tags and that they were being activated. Unable to get out of the area in time as the ground started to erupt around her, she activated her chakra chain ability and wrapped herself in her chains. It would protect from the heat and shrapnel of the explosion, but not the concussive force. The force of the explosion would disorient her, and she would begin to feel the development of bruises all over her body. Reaching into her pouch, she removed her 2 explosive tags and attached them to a kunai each before spinning her chains around to give her space. Catching one of the ninja near her chain cocoon by surprise and ripping their chest open. As she emerged from her cocoon, she observed the remaining 4 shinobi. "Kiri Hunter Nin. What do they want with me? Shouldn't they be fighting a war or something?" Already she can feel as other squads pinged on her sensor. There were another 4 5-man squads, one in each direction. They had trapped her. "Okay, can't stay and fight. That's suicide. I have to escape." Priming her 2 explosive tags, she launched them at the squad in front of her, activating their tags before they could reach the already in motion targets, separating them from each other and causing a smoke screen. Using her sensor, she determined the right side to be the safer path and moved through the smoke, a kunai already in her hand, and gets behind the assailant that went right before covering the ninja's mouth and dragging her kunai across his throat. Ignoring the blood spray, she continued on, moving towards the nearby trees. She was familiar with trees, she trained in Konoha. She would have an advantage there. She could use them to escape. Sadly, her attempt for freedom didn't go unnoticed as one of the shinobi drew a tip-less tanto and sliced at her back, cutting her backpack open. With her opponent so close and the commonness of projectile weapons she had to face them, she couldn't keep her back turned. Sliding her right arm from her backpack, she turned to face her opponents. In one smooth motion, she tossed her torn backpack with her left arm, sending her food and camping supplies flying as the backpack spilled its contents into the air. While they were distracted, she grabbed 5 shuriken and enhanced them with the cutting element of wind and threw them, catching 2 of her pursuers. She did not know if they were dead or just injured, but they were down, and that was what mattered. Already the squad from the left side had appeared in the clearing, and the one to her back would not be far behind. Continuing to the trees, she was once more intercepted, this time by the squad coming from the right. They unleashed a hail of weaponry on her position. Going through hand signs as quickly as she could, she cast the futon, great breakthrough, sending the weapons into the trees themselves rather than back at the squad in her haste. Leaping into the trees, she came across 2 more of these hunter nin, their tip-less tantos ready and dripping a purple liquid. Unarmed, she attempted to dodge her enemies before leaping to another branch, one of the enemies following her. Dodging around the thrust the ninja's tanto, she palmed the top of his forehead before shooting a chain through the man's skull. Dispersing the chain, she winces as she felt the poison in her system from where the sword had grazed her arm, her Shinigami given gifts already working to cure the affliction. Sensing the other shinobi with the poisoned tanto leaping towards her branch, she grabbed 5 of her remaining shuriken and launched them at his airborne body. He blocked, but she is already in motion, sending another 3 shuriken at the shinobi just before he lands on the branch. In the distraction caused by him blocking her attack, she slips into his guard and buries a kunai directly into his heart. Too long. The other squads are in the trees now. I can't afford to fight, and I think they have a sensor with them. Hearing the sound of water, she turns away from Fire Country and heads further into the land of tea. While she may have an affinity for the water element, she did not want to get into a ninjutsu fight with a bunch of Kiri shinobi at a water source. She would continue to use her chains, weapons, and futon jutsu to facilitate her escape. This would turn out to be a bad decision as the trees in this direction revealed their treachery. Attached to their bark were multiple generic exploding tags, the telltale sizzle from activation filling the air. Unable to react in time, she threw her arms up, protecting her face from the explosion. The concussive force would slam her back into a tree and the bark would shoot out like miniature projectiles, burying into her arms. Whoever wants me dead is well connected and has deep pockets. Explosive tags are not cheap, even the generic type. But how did they know where I would be? They had to know about my mission. It's the only way that they could have set this up. Struggling to her feet, Kushina struggled to bring her hands together, before silently casting the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. In a poof of smoke, 3 equally injured clones appeared by her side. Without a word, Kushina and her clones took off into the destroyed woods, splitting into different directions. Ha! Even if they have a sensor, they will have no choice but to split up and follow my clones. We have the same chakra signature. As Kushina ran, she resisted the urge to cry out from pain. The concussive blast from 2 explosions had damaged her legs. She was sure that the bones in her legs were at least cracked, and that her healing was working overtime just to stop them from breaking every time she applied pressure to them. Crossing the destroyed trees, she focused on her sensor once more. Her ploy had not worked. Blast them to the void. How are they still following me? They're almost on top of me now. Kushina ran her injured hand through her hair in frustration, only for her hand to encounter something odd. Pulling the object from her hair, she found it to be an insect. A beetle. No, I have seen this before. This is a Kikaichu. But those belong to Konoha. Kushina thinks in alarm. Shadow Possession Jutsu, complete. Kushina heard from her left, as the Kiri Hunter Nin emerged. Kushina struggled to break free, but it was too late. She saw as a ninja moved forward and stabbed her through the chest. Naruto would be Kushina's last thought as her soul left her body and traveled to a certain seal that the Shinigami had placed many years ago. Mission complete. One of the shinobi spoke. No, it isn't. Squad 4, go, kill Lord Ichiro and his family. He is the noble that Kushina delivered the scroll to. Make sure the people can clearly see your Kiri uniforms. Our orders are to make sure that Kiri takes the blame for the attack and T-Country will seek protection from our own. Kushina Dano's valiant attempt to intercept us will be seen as Konoha protecting its neighbors. Spoke another of the Kiri-clad shinobi. The commander of the assembled shinobi. Hi, Taicho. Before one of the 5-man squads disappeared to murder the civilian noble and his family. You lot, secure her body, she died a hero, and Konoha likes to bury their heroes. The commander ordered. This mission would be off books, just as they were ordered. Yes, I believe we do. Mikoto answered Sarutobi after taking in the surrounding area. Pointing to notably intact building that had so far escaped the fire and the scars of battle, Mikoto addressed the Hokage. Would that location be suitable for our needs? The Hokage, sparing only a glance at the building, nods. Yes, that will do just fine. We shall speak privately inside. The Hokage spoke while putting extra emphasis on the word privately. This would be a talk without their respective guards, without witnesses. Nodding, Mikoto left the few surviving Uchiha and joined Sarutobi in his walk to the building. Once inside, they moved to the dining room. They took seats on the opposite sides of the traditional table, sitting on the mats on either side of the low table. Mikoto-san, before we begin, let us not be coy. I have neither the time nor the patience for it tonight, Sarutobi says as he takes out his pipe and lights it, while not showing Mikoto the respect of her position. Very well, Sarutobi-san. What is it you wish to discuss? I believe what happened here would be quite obvious, Mikoto says, throwing off the sama suffix normally used when addressing the Hokage. I want to discuss the future of your clan. I believe we can both agree that what happened tonight was a disaster for both sides, don't you agree? It wasn't a question. The loss of life on this day is by far a regrettable thing, and I don't believe that Konoha needs any more blood spilt this night. I believe that a deal can be made, but first I would like to hear what your plan was for your little coup, Sarutobi states while looking calmly into her eyes as he blows a puff of smoke into the air. I thought we agreed to not be coy. What is this deal that you believe can be made? Mikoto asks, frustration leaking into her voice. But Mikoto-san, I am not being coy, this all ties together. Now if you would please, what was your plan? Sarutobi insists. He's completely relaxed. He knows that I can't attack him. Even if I did, there is no guarantee I would win. In fact, I'd probably lose. And what about the children outside? I have to play along. Mikoto thought as the urge to attack the old Hokage began to fill her before she pushed it down. The plan was simply to inspire a vote of no confidence in the current Hokage. We knew that the Uchiha clan could not oppose the might of Konoha. That was even before taking into account the various shinobi garrisons spread throughout our country, and the samurai forces that would respond to our rebellion. With the knowledge that we couldn't beat you in combat, we decided to not follow the Uchiha way of using force, and try a more subtle approach. Mikoto sighs before continuing. We decided that we would sabotage the ANBU barracks and cause the assassinations of many key personnel within Konoha, ranging from the ANBU commander, to the head of the hospital, even the Hokage candidate Shikaku. The assassinations would be carried out by various Uchiha spread throughout the ranks that had access to the assigned targets. Mainly we would use the Uchiha inside of the ANBU for these assassinations, while we used the military police to create favorable conditions. When the power vacuum formed from the loss of these key individuals, we would call a vote of no confidence in your leadership, and have you removed from your office. The next Hokage would then be replaced by an Uchiha-backed candidate, or an actual Uchiha. If the worst should happen and we lose this election, we would take advantage of the gaps in power, and ingratiate ourselves to the new Hokage, assuming a more influential role in the running of Konoha. Mikoto explains. It was a good plan. Konoha's manpower would remain largely unaffected, and our leadership could be replaced before a war took place. My spies had told me something similar. Now we get to the root of our deal, Sarutobi says, his facing maintaining an expressionless visage. And what is this deal? Mikoto asked. The deal is simple. While I cannot have one of Konoha's founding clans declared a minor clan, I can cull most of your remaining influence. The Uchiha clan shall surrender control of the military police. You may cite your losses as an excuse. The Uchiha clan will also be subtly discouraged from entering the ANBU again, with all current members still alive, retiring, or they shall find their missions to be of a certain dangerous variety. Finally, the Uchiha clan head, you, shall publicly declare Itachi-sen the instigator of all of this night's events, and a traitor to both your clan and Konoha. These terms are non-negotiable, Sarutobi offers. Mikoto takes a moment to think before she gasps. You need us. If the Uchiha clan doesn't declare Itachi-san a traitor, then you may lose your office. The shinobi outside don't know of the coup. No, the shinobi outside do not know of your treasonous actions, Sarutobi answers. Then you can't attack us. As we did not leave records of our actions, any declaration of our supposed betrayal will be met with skepticism. Our own lack of readiness to attack will be noted. You will look like you're covering your own ass. Then there is the hell Kushina-chan will raise over our destruction. Mikoto responded in challenge. He needs us. You will find that your clan is without allies, Mikoto-san. Kushina-san's influence will not be able to help you. Sarutobi responds coolly. Kushina-chan, Mikoto thought worriedly. What did you do to Kushina-chan? Come now. Did you really expect Konoha to leave your collaborator alone? That Konoha would allow a Kage-level traitor with direct access and influence to our Jinchuriki to live? Sarutobi asks with an incredulous tone. But Kushina-chan wasn't involved, Mikoto answers in a biting tone as she hears about the death of another of her friends and loved ones. Then it seems that I have made a mistake, but don't worry, I shall look after her son. No harm will come to him. That is my promise. But you can consider her death a product of your own actions. The Uchiha clan's treachery called the Uzumaki clan into question. Kushina Dano's loyalty wouldn't have been called into question if it hadn't been for your actions. Her death lies squarely on your shoulders, Sarutobi says with genuine remorse in the beginning before switching to anger at the end, while also attaching the Dano suffix once more upon Mikoto's confirmation of Kushina's loyalty. Minato-kun, Kushina Dano, I will make sure Naruto-kun is safe. He will be a powerful and loyal shinobi of Konoha, just as you would have wanted. I hope the sage can forgive me for my mistake. The third Hokage thought, making a promise to his dead successor/predecessor and loyal ally, unknowing of Kushina's own plans for betrayal. You kill my family and my friend, and you expect me to save your career. Do you really think I will support you? Mikoto more demanded than asked, as the quickly building rage from the night began to surface. I don't believe you understand. If you do not support me, I will order the death of your entire clan, starting with you, in this very room. If you do not agree to this deal, then that is the end of your clan. I am perfectly willing to order the death of a clan of traitors. I think I can survive the fallout, and I am willing to take that risk, Sarutobi answered in a cold tone. So what do you choose? Do you sell out your eldest child, or do you sentence your clan to death? Choose now, the Hokage orders. It is a choice that no mother would ever want to make. Does she condemn one child to save the rest of her family, including her youngest? Did she want to be responsible for the death of the remaining members of her family? I have to say yes. Even if the clan somehow escaped, we could never survive on our own, not after we were declared traitors. Itachi-san made his choice. He sided with the Hokage. He will protect him. No, I can't think of him. He killed Fugaku-kun. He killed parts of our family. I have to protect what I have left. Yes, Hokage-sama, I will accept your deal. Mikoto finally spoke, saying the sama suffix as if it was poison. Fantastic. Now don't try anything funny. If you deviate from this deal, I will carry out my promise. Remember, you cannot tell anyone the truth of what actually happened tonight, and it should be left unsaid that you cannot tell little Naruto-kun the truth about what happened to his mother. I don't have to tell you what would happen if the implied trust of this meeting were to be broken. I will be watching. Sarutobi threatened. Yes, Hokage-sama. Mikoto spoke in a defeated tone as she rose from her seat, the Hokage joining her as she walked out of the building to address the surrounding shinobi. Fellow members of the Uchiha clan, honorable members of Konoha's shinobi force, we have been deceived. Uchiha, Itachi, my son and clan heir has for unknown purposes sought to cause a civil war in our homes. He dressed himself in his ANBU uniform and attacked us. In this confusion we allowed fear to cloud our minds, perhaps influenced by the bloodline massacre taking place in Kiri. But this is not Kiri, and we should not have been so easily deceived. The Uchiha clan offers its apologies and sympathies to those who lost their lives from this betrayal. That is why, for his crimes, we declare Itachi-san a traitor to the clan and with Hokage-sama's support, a traitor to Konoha and to Fire Country. In accordance with this, we strip Itachi-san of the Uchiha name and all titles that it had brought. Mikoto announced to the surrounding shinobi, her eyes focusing on those not belonging to the Uchiha clan, the ones she was truly speaking to. All medical shinobi tend to the wounded, whether they be Uchiha or not. There shall be no more blood spilt this day. To all others gathered here today, I promise you Konoha shall have justice for this day. The traitor shall answer for his crimes. For now, collect your dead and extinguish these fires. Tomorrow shall be a day of mourning. Sarutobi spoke, before turning to head back to the Hokage Tower. He had a lot of work to do. Hokage-sama, I would like to oversee our dead. I do not wish for our clan's secrets to be vulnerable. Mikoto spoke to him, making sure her voice was loud enough for the surrounding shinobi to hear. Of course, it is your right. It is the right of every clan to protect its secrets. Sarutobi responded. As medical personnel swarmed the wounded and ninja put out the fires in the compound, the death toll was counted. The Uchiha clan, once a clan with over 400 people, had almost been annihilated. Not even 30 people would now make up the Uchiha clan. The surviving clan would be made of 16 children, 11 adults, and 2 elders. Konoha's losses would also be devastating, as the initial responders to the flares had not expected the Uchiha to attack. Of the shinobi that responded, slightly over 250 had been killed in the resulting ambushes and battles. Genin, Chunin, Jonin, and Anbu were all killed during the fighting. The news would only get worse as an Anbu squad arrived at the gates, carrying Kushina's body. While Kushina might have become estranged to the people of Konoha, she had still been friends with a couple and fought alongside many others on the battlefield. To those that didn't know her, the loss of a Kage-level ninja would still affect their morale. The Sandaime Hokage would call for a meeting below the tower, so that he could address the concerns of the public. This speech would take place after the Konoha Academy had finished its classes. The sun attempted to break through the clouds and shine over a dreary Konoha. The village had had a rough night, and sleep had been hard to come by. The streets were filled with whispers of the Uchiha incident as the news traveled from person to person. Families wept, as loved ones did not return last night, and Itachi's name was cursed. Another piece of gossip would be of Kushina's death. It is to this knowledge that we turn our attention to Naruto. Naruto had awoken to this news after Mikoto had cast a genjutsu on him, and the Uchiha children, after her meeting with the Hokage was over, wanting the children to sleep and not see what lay outside the Naka shrine. After he had awoken, he had heard the news and slipped out of the Uchiha compound and into the streets of Konoha. His face had tears running down it as he tried and failed to contain them. Despite the fact that his mother told him to never walk these streets alone, he was safe. Even with the lack of protection Kushina's death gave him, he would be left alone. Kushina's friends would make sure he was unharmed on this day. Letting his feet guide him, the sad boy entered one of the many forested areas around Konoha and came across a collapsed structure. Curious, he wiped his tears and examined the building. The building was raised on stilts with a staircase leading to its entrance, which had collapsed some time ago. To the right of the building, its deck lay shattered, crashing into the ground, while the left looked unsteady, its supports chipped and broken. The rooftop is missing pieces, holes dot the area. But in the center of the collapsed entrance was his clan's symbol. That's the symbol of the Uzumaki clan. I wonder what's inside, Naruto thought as he slipped under the dilapidated entrance. The inside of the building was not any better. It shows the signs of torn tapestries and stolen pieces of worship. Walking forward, he approaches a fallen table in front of a wall covered in masks and examines it. By its overturned side he can see shattered glass and pieces of incense, evidence that this was a prayer table. Crouching down, he tries to lift the table only for the cracked piece of furniture to break in his hand. What happened here? The young Uzumaki wondered as he turned his gaze to the wall in front of the table. The one part of the temple that was still intact. On this wall there are several masks. All similar in design, a face with horns on top and recognizable to the child Uzumaki. These are Shinigami masks. That means this is a temple to the Shinigami. It is as he thought this that his feet began to move, carrying him before the mask in the middle. The mask bore a fanged grin and dark eyes. Slightly curved horns pointed towards the broken ceiling. Reaching his hands up, he attempted to grab the mask but could not reach it. Not deterred, the Uzumaki turned to the broken table and approached it once more. Grabbing a broken leg from the table, he went back to the wall. Aiming the leg of the table, he attempted to knock the mask from its perch. Once, he missed, sliding over the mask. Twice, he missed once more, knocking an adjacent mask to the floor. Stopping, he checked the fallen mask before sighing in relief. The mask was unbroken. Third, he succeeded. The mask came free and fell into his hands after he dropped the leg of the table. Looking into the mask's eyes, Naruto swore he saw them glow, before shaking his head. It was just a trick of the light. Now came the final part. He began to raise the mask to his face, hesitating only a second, as he felt for some odd reason that everything would change once he put the mask on his face. Seemingly compelled, he dismissed the thought, and brought the mask to his face and put it on. The world around him changed as a presence filled the room, the air changing, becoming cold to the touch. In front of him, a power so massive that it produced a weight of its own enveloped him, and nearly drove him to the ground before it faded, and the world went quiet. The boy looked through the eyes of the mask before blinking, and reaching up to rub his eyes. The being before him wore white robes and had grayish-blue skin. His body slightly translucent as his dark eyes somehow shone with power, and his teeth were pointed and sharp. The being before him is the Shinigami, his god. Shinigami-sama. Naruto greeted, giving a bow of his head to the god. Uzumaki, Naruto. It is time you learn. The Shinigami spoke, its voice full of power. Learn, Shinigami-sama? Naruto questioned. It is time to learn of your family's past. Long ago, before the rise of the Sage of Six Paths, the Uzumaki worshipped me, finding meaning in death. They never warded against death, never tried to cast me aside. The Uzumaki instead greeted me as if I were an old friend. Curious, I appeared before them, and later blessed them with my gifts. As time passed, the Uzumaki grew, and despite the hardships that outsiders brought and discrimination against their views, the Uzumaki stayed loyal to their beliefs. Then they were betrayed. Your true home, the land of Whirlpool, was betrayed by the people of fire, and an alliance born of water, lightning, and earth was created to destroy your home. Even this temple was desecrated by Konoha. Konoha helped to destroy my clan. Naruto muttered, his voice quiet at the news of who was behind his family's destruction hit him. Growing up as a child, he had heard stories of his clan from his mother, and come to love them. They were his family and heritage. He had even promised his mother that he would rebuild their clan, that he would not allow them to be the last. Even now your clan lies in hiding. Fearful of the other lands, declared infidels for their beliefs, my subjects live in suffering. There are other Uzumaki alive. We have to find them. If there were other Uzumaki truly alive, then he still had a family. He had to find them. His family needed help, and family watched out for each other. He would save them, make them safe. Naruto would not allow his family to be separate for any longer. Sadly, I cannot help you, that is your task alone. You shall unite my followers, rebuild the Uzumaki clan. By myself, but how? I'm just a kid. Naruto wondered. He had thought that the Shinigami would help him unite his family. Now the task seemed so large to his young mind. I cannot aid you directly in your task. The rules of the gods forbid such things. But you have been gifted with much power and influence. You need only learn to use it. Ask your mother, and you shall receive your answers and begin the start of your journey. Ka-san? But Ka-san is dead. How can she? Naruto began to question. Is Shinigami-sama going to bring Ka-san back to life? The young boy thought in answer to his unasked question. Your mother's soul lies not in the realm of the dead. At the time of your birth, I gifted you with a special seal. Your mother's soul lies in there, and will awaken in 1 week's time. Learn from her and of her death. Ka-san. Naruto thought happily as looked down. He would be getting her back, at least in some form. Never again would he take her for granted. He would always be thankful to the Shinigami for this gift. Naruto's vision turns hazy and he begins to stumble, as exhaustion began to settle in. Still Naruto struggles to stay standing, refusing to appear weak before the Shinigami. As the young Uzumaki attempts to remain standing, the Shinigami takes note. It seems that our meeting is coming to an end. Your spirit cannot keep me in this plane for much longer. So I leave you with this final thought. Konoha did not only steal from me, it stole from you as well. With that, the Shinigami dispersed, and Naruto fainted, his spirit tired from bringing the Shinigami into the physical plane. He would wake up with the dream to unite his clan once more and the strength to smile once again. As he attended the eulogy of all that died, the soul catcher seal that had been placed long ago began to softly glow. It would not be long before Kushina was with her son once more. It has been a week since Naruto spoke with the god of death, and currently the young redhead slept in his bed, but this sleep would not be accompanied by dreams. No, the soul inside of the Shinigami seal had finally awakened. Naruto, clad once more in the monk-style robes that were signature of the Uzumaki clan's dress. The white robes with red lining were slightly form-fitting in design and was the outfit that the Uzumaki clan wore outside of battle. Around the young Uzumaki was a meadow, the grass bright and tall, with a large weeping willow tree in the center. Running along the edge of the meadow, he could make out a roaring river that separated the meadow from a rocky and treacherous terrain. This rocky area has a large cave in the center, its entrance blocked by stone bars that give the cave the appearance of a jagged grin. On this cave he could see large black etchings, occasionally pulsing with power. The sky is cloudy and little streaks of lightning spark, bouncing between the clouds. Where am I? Naruto wondered out loud. Sochi-kun, this is your mindscape. A voice spoke from under the weeping willow. Ka-san? Naruto asked, turning towards the weeping willow and watching as the leaves were pushed aside. From under the cover of the tree a body emerged. First, the young boy could only see the hand that pushed the leaves aside, then he could see the red hair, and soon the body had appeared. Standing in front of Naruto is his mother, wearing the same outfit as he. Ka-san! Naruto shouted as raced forward, tackling the woman where she stood. Oh, Naruto, my little Naruto! Kushina spoke as a spackling of tears rolled down her eyes. She did not know how it happened, nor did she care, but she was united with her son, and to her that is all that mattered. Ka-san, I miss you. Konoha said you died, but then Shinigami-sama said you would awaken, and then he spoke about how our clan was destroyed, and that Konoha had betrayed our clan, and then Naruto began as he poured out the events of the week to his mother. He was rambling, he knew it, but he had missed her. Whoa, Sochi. Slow down. Now you said that Shinigami-sama said that I would awaken? Kushina asked as she continued to hold her son, a light laugh threatening to escape her mouth over her son's exuberance. Hi. Shinigami-sama said that he put a seal on me that would trap your soul if you died. The boy answered quickly, his arms still wrapped around his mother as he stared up at her from her stomach. So that's what happened. Shinigami-sama must have added the seal when he sealed the Kyuubi into Naruto. Kushina thought as she stared down at her son. Come, sit with me by the tree. We have much to talk about. Kushina spoke as she reluctantly let go of her son, before guiding him to the trunk of the tree and sitting down. She patted the ground beside her, gesturing for her son to sit down. As Naruto sat down, he asked his mother a question. Ka-san, you said that this place is my mindscape, but what is that? Sochi-kun, this place is a representation of your mind, of your very soul. The meadow is peaceful and the grass is tall and healthy. This is because this is where you feel most at peace, and the grass shows that you are healthy. The tree we are sitting beside is a representation of my seal. And the clouds and lightning shows that you are troubled, worried, or confused. Kushina kindly explains to her son, drawing on her own experience with mindscapes from her past experience as a Jinchuriki, and the knowledge the Uzumaki had gained of the spiritual world. But what about the rocky area or the river? What do they mean? Naruto asked. The river is a barrier. It separates the meadow from the rocky area. As for the rocky area, we will talk about that soon. Just don't cross the river, not until I say you are ready. Can you do that for Ka-san? Kushina explains before urging her son not to cross the river without her permission. Hi. Naruto says happily. The boy did not care about the rocky terrain. It may look interesting to him, but his Ka-san is in the meadow. He currently had no desire to visit the perilous area. Good. Sochi-kun, do you know how I died? Kushina asked her son bluntly, unsure of how to broach the topic in a tactful enough manner that her 5-year-old son would understand. No, but Shinigami-sama said that I should ask you. The boy answered. That's because you're in danger. After I completed my mission, I was ambushed on the road by several teams of shinobi from Konoha. Konoha killed me. Kushina spoke as gently as she could. Konoha killed you. The boy mumbled softly, staring into his lap. Continuing to stare into his lap, the boy spoke once more. That's what Shinigami-sama meant when he said that Konoha stole from me. Why does Konoha keep hurting our clan? Hurting our clan? What do you mean? Kushina asks, unsure of what her son meant when he said that Konoha had been hurting her clan, not knowing of the hand that the village and their country had played in the destruction of her country. They betrayed our clan before the Second World War. They helped lightning and water to destroy our home. Even Earth was in on it. Naruto answered, the comfort of his mom's presence allowing him to talk about what had been bothering him since he spoke with the Shinigami. Damn them to the void. Kushina thought. Konoha had helped to destroy her clan, and she had fought for them. She could not believe she served as a shinobi under Konoha's banner. Naruto-kun, it is very important that you listen to me. You must get out of Konoha, Kushina urged. Hi. I don't like it here anymore anyway. Since you died and the Uchiha clan was nearly destroyed, the glares have gotten worse, the boy answered. Naruto knew because his mother had told him from a young age that if he went out of his home or the Uchiha compound, he must have either her or an Uchiha around to be safe. He had noticed that Konoha was getting decidedly unfriendly now that his protection is nearly gone. The Uchiha clan? Kushina mumbled under her breath before looking her son in the eye. You must be careful. You can't just leave. Things are not as simple as you might think. Why, Ka-san? You taught me some of the laws of Konoha. I am not a shinobi. I don't have to ask the Hokage to move. I can just leave Konoha, maybe slip across the border. Naruto spoke, his voice getting slightly excited as he remembered the stories his mother had read to him growing up. Sochi-kun, you are not a normal person. You are the last of the Uzumaki. Kushina began before she was interrupted by her son. No, I'm not. Shinigami-sama said that there were more Uzumakis in hiding. I'm going to unite them. Naruto interjects. That's great news. I will help you to unite our clan, but for now you must stay in Konoha. You are the last known Uzumaki, and you are something else. You are a Jinchuriki. Kushina explains. Ka-san, what's a Jinchuriki? Naruto asks. A Jinchuriki is someone that has a seal on them that holds something very powerful. A Jinchuriki seal holds a Biju, and yours holds the Kyubi just as I did before you. The shinobi world views people like us as weapons, and Konoha will not give up their Jinchuriki without a fight. Kushina explains. Is that the reason that people glare at me? Naruto asks. Hi. But that is stupid. Don't they know how seals work? If the seal turned us into the Kyubi, then there would be two Kyubis, not one. Wait, if the tree is a representation of your seal, then the cave would be, Naruto says, untroubled by the revelation of his status. If his mother was one, then it could not be a bad thing. Hi. The cave is a representation of the fox's seal. Also, most people have no knowledge of Fuinjutsu and how it works. It is even rarer to meet a seal master, someone who could understand a Jinchuriki's seal. This fear is increased by those that have seen, heard, or experienced the devastation a Jinchuriki can bring to the battlefield. You must be careful. Kushina warns. So they are just confused? Naruto asked. No. Jinchuriki have existed for a long time, starting with Mito Uzumaki. If they lash out at you, then they are in the wrong. Never allow anyone to hurt you. Promise me. Kushina states adamantly. She would not allow her son to be hurt by the misguided. She did not care about them, she cared for her son, and what mother would allow anyone to harm her child? Hi, Ka-san. Good. Kushina says before lying down, dragging her son into her embrace. Let's go to sleep. When you wake, we will begin your training. Ka-san, is it wrong to hate? Naruto whispers into his mother's chest. No. Sometimes people do things that are unforgivable. Why? The mother answered, unsure of how she should answer this question. Well, it's that our family has been harmed by so many people. I wanted to know if it was wrong that I wanted them punished. The young boy answered. Giving her son a quick squeeze of reassurance, she answered. It's only human to feel that way. Then I hope that one day I can bring to justice those who hurt my family. Like the Uchiha clan did before the incident. Naruto says, not yet realizing the implications of what he had said. Naruto-kun, I don't think, just be careful. There is a fine line between justice and vengeance. For now, go to sleep. With that said, Kushina began to hum a lullaby to her son, and he began to close his eyes. Soon Naruto was asleep, and though Kushina no longer needed to sleep herself, she too closed her eyes. I don't think you realize what type of justice your goal needs. Konoha alone is a great enemy. I hope that you will realize this. I would rather you escape and unite our family than die. After the Uchiha incident, the world once more found itself on the brink of war. Fire Country, the nation with the most prosperous lands and strongest military, had been left vulnerable, and the other nations began to circle, but once again the elemental nations would decide against war. The other four superpowers of the elemental nations had no desire for the conflict, and without their support the smaller nations had no desire to challenge even a weakened fire country. The Land of Water would desire peace simply because of the bloodline massacres started by their own Kage, Yagura, plunging the country into chaos. The Mizuki's actions were beginning to cause a civil war to form in the Water Daimyo's country. To make matters worse for the Water Daimyo, he was beginning to lose control of the outlying islands that made up his country, forcing the daimyo to deploy his samurai to them in an attempt to keep order. Their political situation would only worsen when they received word that the Land of Tea was ceasing all political ties with their country, and instead had joined the Land of Fire as an ally after an assassination of one of Tea country's nobles. The Land of Lightning would stay out of it for a simple lack of allies and political strength. After the Hyuga incident, and how close they came to starting the next world war, they felt that the Land of Fire could easily rally allies to their side. They could not afford to be the instigators of the next war. The Lightning Daimyo would also desire peace due to his sister, Lady Shirjimi, being married to the Fire Daimyo. The Land of Wind would simply not be able to afford a war. Their current daimyo had begun to take funding from Suna and its own samurai forces, preferring to use the money for more lavish expenses. He felt that with the country's desert and its sands he only needed a minimal defense force to keep his country safe. Already nobles felt concerned for the future of their country, as the military is diminished and the rumors of royal bastards began to grow. Finally, the Land of Earth would also decide against taking advantage of Fire Country's weakness. With the advice of Inoki, the current Tsuchikage, the country would adopt a wait-and-see approach. Inoki believed that if Earth Country invaded Fire Country, that once the forces of Earth were victorious they would never enjoy the spoils of victory, and that the other countries would attack their diminished forces. This was also compounded by the fact that Earth Country, the most negatively affected country from the Third World War, was finally beginning to recover from the war. Naruto, age 5. Currently inside of Naruto's home we find the young redhead sitting in the same room his mother had once taught him. He is currently meditating with the table that once sat propped against the wall in front of him. On its surface you can see an inkwell and a brush, as well as papers with various seal designs strewn across its surface. He had been practicing seals, guided by the voice of his mother from the Shinigami's seal. Much had changed over the last few months after the death of Naruto's mother, and the once innocent boy was rapidly being forced to mature. One such change is that he is now the only known Uzumaki in the Land of Fire, and with that he had new responsibilities. This status made him the new clan head of the Uzumaki clan and technical owner of a seat on the council, though his age and lack of adult status caused him to be denied his seat. Since he couldn't take up his seat on the council, he asked Mikoto, the new clan head of the Uchiha clan, if she would act as regent for him. There were restrictions, of course. With his mother's advice he was able to make it so that while Mikoto could use his vote during council meetings, something that didn't seem to go over well with the Hokage, that he still retained control over the inner workings of his clan. Meaning anything from marriage contracts to finances, his mother had been particularly insistent on marriage contracts. It did not take him long to find out why. It seemed that with Kushina's death, the clans decided that they wanted the Uzumaki bloodline in their clan. The belief seemed to be that with his youth and lack of political know-how, they could get him to join their clan through marriage, taking control of the Uzumaki techniques, finances, and gaining the Uzumaki bloodline. There were also plans for if they could not get him into their clan. The power of a second seat on the council is a powerful lure. If it wasn't for his mother whispering in his ear about how to be polite but still turn down their offers, he might have found himself betrothed, or even married. If the threat of marriage was not enough, Naruto had also started to have trouble with the Uzumaki district. To be more exact, what used to be the Uzumaki district. With Kushina's death, her protection and her connections no longer kept the district safe from those who disliked the young Jinchuriki, and soon the properties were vandalized. To make matters worse, business had been non-existent. After the Hyuga incident, business had been bad, but now people refused to make use of a Jinchuriki's business, and those that did, sought to take advantage of him. It was with much reluctance that his mother and he agreed to sell all of the Uzumaki properties in Konoha except his home and the old temple. The current plan was to sell the home and move into the old Shinigami temple on the outskirts of Konoha once the place was livable and secure. On the bright side, he still maintained the legitimate businesses outside of Konoha. The final change to his life was the boldness of Konoha's people. In the past, the threat of his mother's power and influence kept Konoha's populace from striking out at him. With her now gone, the people felt little fear in expressing their hatred. Luckily, attempts at physical violence were violently repelled by the Hokage's ANBU, who likely had orders to make sure no harm fell on Konoha's weapon. While the ANBU protection might have stopped physical abuse, it did not stop the citizens of Konoha from finding other ways to make life miserable for him. Currently, Naruto was meditating as he felt for his chakra and the spiritual energy gifted to his clan by the Shinigami. Digging deeper, he found his chakra. It felt soothing and fast, though turbulent when prodded. I will have to work on my chakra control, the boy thought after he prodded his chakra, feeling as the energy resisted his touch. Yes, you will. But continue with your lesson, find your spiritual energy, Kushina instructed from Seal, picking up on her son's errant thought. Naruto mentally nodded his head before digging once more into himself. He would figure out how to block stray thoughts from his mother another day. Digging past the chakra, he found a new energy, different and yet familiar. This new energy was strange, somehow feeling like he was touching himself, like the energy was made up of everything that made him who he is. Got it, the boy mentally thought to his mother. Good. Now pulse the energy. Like when you toss a rock into water and it ripples, Kushina coached from inside of the seal. Using the mental picture his mom's words caused, he pushed down on the energy. At first he struggled, the energy did not want to be moved. It was content to remain where it was. The second attempt was much like the first, a failure. On the third he attempted to move it like he had when he unlocked his chakra and felt it move, but it still didn't go far. On the fourth attempt he finally got it to move through his body, moving much like he would move chakra. Sadly, it was not a pulse, more of a flow of energy. Feeling the energy move from inside of her son's body, Kushina began to talk to her son. Not like that. Spiritual energy is the energy of your soul, it responds to your desires. It does not behave the same way as chakra, nor should you try to control it in the same manner. Nudge it, send your thoughts to it, and it will respond. Okay. Pulse. Splash. Ripple. The young Uzumaki thought as he attempted to communicate with the energy. As the young Uzumaki mentally prodded the energy, it began to respond and soon began to ripple. Then it moved from his body, creating a dome that spread around the house. Suddenly he could feel another's presence outside of his home. He could feel unique things that he could not describe. It was dizzying. Then it was over, the energy was back in place, the presence gone. What was that? Naruto questioned. That was the Uzumaki version of sensor training. What you felt was the presence of one of the ANBU outside our home. The things that you could not describe were the ANBU's own spirit, the ANBU's emotions. The most proficient members of our clan at this type of sensing called it the mind's eye of the Kagura. With this technique you will always know where your enemies are and who you can trust. Skilled users can even expand their senses for miles. It is a technique that all Uzumaki can use, making us the only clan of sensors in the elemental nations to my knowledge. Kushina explained. Awesome. You're saying that's what I am learning? Naruto responded, excited to learn a new technique. Hi, this is what you will learn to do. By the time you have mastered it, you will be able to do this subconsciously. You will not make your Ka-sen's mistake. Kushina spoke, her voice growing rather stern at the end. Your mistake? Naruto questioned. Hi, my mistake. I never mastered this technique and had to consciously activate it. This mistake helped to lead me to my death. You will not make the same mistake. Kushina said in her I'm your mother voice. Hi. Naruto answered. Alright, now Naruto, your range is currently small, but that is workable. We will work on expanding your range later. For now we will have you activate the sensor as often as you can while I guide you through the feelings you receive from those your technique contacts. Later we shall have you learn to distinguish from humans and animals. Kushina explained to her son. Reaching out to his spirit energy once more, Naruto began to send his message. Pulse. Ripple. His message would be interrupted as his mother interrupted him. What are you doing? You don't have to actually think the message. That is actually a learning technique. Remember how the energy moved when you used it. Coax it. Only use the words as a last resort. Reaching out to the energy, he tried to replicate what had happened before. Unfortunately, the ANBU had moved outside of his range, so he could no longer feel the ANBU's emotions, but he could practice the technique. At first he would struggle to activate the sensor and have to actually think his thoughts to his spirit energy, but eventually he would learn to activate it without the training wheels. It was a first step. He had learned to use the most basic form of the sensor technique, and could now use his spirit energy. That's enough for the day, it's getting late. We will continue to practice this after seal practice tomorrow. Clean up and get ready to bed. Grab a book, I will read it to you before you go to sleep. Kushina spoke from inside of the seal. Naruto got up from his position, stumbling as his legs were asleep from sitting on the floor for so long before leaving the room. He would leave the seal notes on the table, his mother, and he would go over his work during seal practice. Brushing his teeth and picking out a book from the bookcase in his bedroom, he crawled into his non-traditional bed and opened the book. This activity had become a tradition once Kushina had awakened in the seal. Upon the embarrassing discovery that his mother could see everything he did through his eyes, Kushina decided to take advantage of this by reading a story to her son each night, and making him tell her when a word confused him. Once the story was read, he would slip into his mindscape and curl up with his mother and go to sleep. In the morning, he would eat a piece of fruit before he practiced his taijutsu and shower before his mom guided him through breakfast. His mom would then teach him about math, history, language, politics, science, etc. Once done, she would once again help through the preparation of a late lunch before he practiced chakra control and his henge. Finally, he would have dinner and work on his seals, with sensing practice after that. This is the schedule the 5-year-old redhead would follow with little variation for some time, though he would always sleep in the arms of his mother once night had fallen. Over the rest of this year, Naruto's schedule would have a special jutsu added to it once he had mastered the illusionary henge and moved on to the solid henge. Naruto age 6. Naruto's schooling had changed once he learned the special technique his mother had provided him. This technique was the original version of the Kagebushin, the Uzumaki version. The Uzumaki version of this technique is a mix of chakra and spirit energy that creates a sturdier version of the clone created by its pure chakra cousin. The technique is created by sending a sliver of your spiritual energy, a piece of your soul, into an empty shell. Also, while both versions of the technique pass along information, the Uzumaki version passes the information more clearly than the chakra version. Sadly, the Uzumaki version could not be cast in large numbers without certain precautions or risks. While Naruto and Kushina might have begrudgingly admitted that the Nidaime Hokage's technique was superior in general, the Uzumaki version is the only clone that can activate Uzumaki seals and is sturdier than its chakra counterpart, making it superior for their clan's use. With this technique learned, Naruto found his schedule vastly changed. Since Kushina could not transfer with him, she would have Naruto create multiple clones that would study various subjects while she would have the original act as a mouthpiece for her, using his body to teach a classroom full of his clones, correcting their mistakes. To Naruto, it seemed weird to relay what his mother said to his clones and correct his own work under her guidance, and while the beginning was rocky, the method proved effective. Another thing that changed was that his chakra began to get more firmly under his control. Through the use of his clones and chakra memory, the chakra version of muscle memory, he began to get his turbulent chakra under control. It also allowed him to more carefully examine his henge for any flaws, making sure that the technique was perfect. The clones even gave him partners for his taijutsu. The sturdiness allowing the clones to take a couple of hits before they popped. His mother said that the clones would be able to take even more as he grew older and more skilled in the technique's usage. Even the running of katas were different, as he would sometimes stand off to the side and watch a clone, letting his mother once more use him as a mouthpiece to correct the clone on his stances. The knowledge of the stances would be passed along in the form of muscle memory when the clone dispelled. But it was in seals that he most improved. With clones, he had people to test his creations on. He also was able to truly delve into seals. His clones could study scrolls on sealing while he drew one under his mother's guidance. Naruto would come across many seals, but 2 seals would truly gather his attention. These 2 seals would be the animation seal and the listening seal. Those 2 seals would become the main focus of his seal studies. The animation seal is a seal he had begun to practice in the privacy of his home in a place where no windows could see. The seal allowed him to animate an inanimate object, say a suit of armor, and use it as a soldier under his command. It is an Uzumaki seal that no other has been able to copy because it is risky for even an Uzumaki. This pure spirit energy seal requires the user to connect their soul with the object and bring it to life. When dispelled against the user's will, it will cause the user a great deal of pain, even death if used incorrectly. Chakra versions of this seal were deemed impossible after several seal masters destroyed their own chakra network trying to replicate the seal. The listening seal was simply a common spy seal that had never been generalized. Naruto felt that the seal was limited and could be improved upon. With the knowledge of an Uzumaki version of the seal, he desired to make a new version of the seal, a better one. His mother's story about her ambush and how her lack of information and carelessness had made it so that he believed information can be just as powerful as power itself. The final change in his learning was only partially due to this new technique. Kushina believed that with his growing maturity forced upon him by the village he lived in and his expanding knowledge, it was time to teach him about the criminal underworld. She taught him of her connections and how she tried to get them out of Konoha. She also taught how powerful such connections can be, even for shinobi and samurai. Kushina taught him that he could not see things in black and white, for gray existed between the 2 colors. It is currently rather late, and the sun is starting to set as Naruto walks down the street of Konoha in his usual robed appearance as he heads to his home, an occasional pulse of his sensor alerting him to the ANBU shadowing him from the rooftops of nearby buildings. He had just finished visiting the Uchiha compound. The compound had resembled a damaged ghost town as it had not yet been fully repaired since the Uchiha incident, and its inhabitants had moved to the center so as to stay together. He had even run into the now married and recent father Shigeru Uchiha as he was teaching Uchiha children in the courtyard how to access their chakra. The man had apparently married Setsuna Uchiha not long after the Uchiha incident, and had a baby girl not long after. He had even met her when he saw Setsuna holding her child as she watched her husband, before he was pointed in Mikoto's direction. Sadly, his Mikoto Bazin was tired. The cremation of the Uchiha dead had passed with little difficulty, with only a strange Anbu having been caught and killed by the Uchiha guards when he attempted to harvest the eyes of the deceased members of their clan. Mikoto herself was feeling the pressure that came with 2 council votes as civilians attempted to curry her favor. Then there were the Uchiha properties to consider. She had little experience, and allowed civilian businessmen to entrench themselves and was currently struggling against them. Apparently, while many of the civilians now found the clan to be tragic, this did not stop others from attempting to take advantage of the inexperienced Mikoto. Finally, she was under pressure to marry once more by the elders. I wish they would leave Mikoto Bazin alone, and Sasuke-sen isn't helping, Naruto thought. Sasuke had taken the incident badly. Where he was once kind and fun to play with, he was now quiet and withdrawn. He had developed an obsession with his brother that was only slightly more powerful than his obsession with his remaining family. He had even started to preach the old Uchiha adage about power. With this new belief, he had started to ignore his family in the pursuit of the very power he desired to avenge and protect them with. While Naruto could understand the desire to kill Itachi, even respect it, he did not like how Sasuke had changed. They had even fought when he decided to visit Sasuke, and he said that Naruto was wasting his time. Naruto was unsure of his feelings for his old friend at this moment, especially when he brought up his dead mother and said he didn't have a family anymore and that he wouldn't understand. Stupid Sasuke, of course I understand. Konoha killed my mother, but I was lucky enough to get her back. I was just saying that he should treasure his family, Naruto thought darkly. Ignoring the glares around him, he continued to walk before his stomach growled. He was hungry and he didn't feel like cooking. Taking a look around, he found himself surrounded in a sea of glares. He did not feel comfortable. Hey, are you alright? A voice says from behind him as a hand touches his shoulder. Barely stopping himself from screaming in surprise, he begins to turn around. Stupid baka. This is why Kasan says to always keep your sensor active. So this doesn't happen, the boy thought, stressing the word always as he activated his sensor. Once Naruto turns around, he notices a girl with long brown hair and a slender appearance. She is wearing a simple white kimono top over loose black pants. Her face is fair and her eyes bright, with a small smile on her face as she looked at him. Even more surprising was that this girl, maybe 5 years older than him, was being genuine, his sensor only picking up warm emotions. She was being nice to him. Who is she? Naruto thought. No, I am fine. Thank you for asking, Naruto responded, remembering his mother's lessons on being polite. Shinigami-sama only knew what his mother would say if he was rude to one of the few people genuinely nice to him. It is as he said this that his stomach growled once more, bringing an embarrassed flush to the boy's face. You sound hungry, the girl says with a pleasant laugh. Well, just a little. I was just about to get something to eat, but I haven't decided where yet, Naruto responds while rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment. He had no idea how to respond to someone like this girl. Grabbing his arm, she begins to excitedly drag the boy behind her. Come on. I know just the place, the girl says over her shoulder. What? Wait. What are you doing? Naruto questioned, his emotional control broken by the suddenness of the action. I'm taking you somewhere to eat, silly, the girl responds with a carefree air, a bright smile threatening to split her face. Bewildered, Naruto responds, but I don't even know you. I'm Ichiraku, I am. What's your name? I am answers back. Uzumaki, Naruto. Naruto answers while pulsing his sensor and taking comfort in the fact that he can still detect his ANBU guards. The girl had apparently not known his name. Who knew what would happen now that she knew? Imagine his surprise when the girl just continued to smile and he didn't feel the coldness he had come to associate with negative emotions. The girl didn't care. Is this what people meant when girls are strange? The boy wondered. Girls aren't strange, we're just complex. Go with her, you need to socialize more, Kushina answered from inside of the seal. Soon he was in front of a small stand that had seen better days. The girl I am threw aside the curtains and spoke loudly. To-san, customer. As the girl went around the counter, a man appeared from the back. The man that appeared was dressed in a similar manner to his daughter, only with a blue apron tied to his front. His hair was short and turning gray, and he seemed to be balding as he put on a chef's cap. The man paused when he saw Naruto but then smiled. Welcome to Ichiraku Ramen, I am Ichiraku, Tuchi. May I take your order? Once more the Uzumaki used his sensor as he climbed onto a stool, the whole experience seeming surreal to him. Once again he got positive feelings. These people were different. Sochi-kun, I know this place. I used to eat here with your father before you were born. They're good people. Kushina reassured from the seal. She knew that her son was going through a hard time. Outside of the Uchiha clan and herself, every person he met seemed to hate him or want something from him. To see two people just wanting to be nice was sadly a strange experience for her son. Yes, thank you, Ichiraka-san. What would you recommend? Naruto spoke formally. He was unused to social situations and was drawing on his political training in an attempt to make a good impression. Why are you being so formal? You're a kid, relax. Ayam answered before her father could while she dragged over a stepping stool to stand on behind the counter. She was not yet tall enough to comfortably see over the counter. Okay. But could you tell me what you would recommend? Naruto answered, the girl's presence confusing him once more. What, haven't you had ramen before? Ayam questioned, her face now close to his as she stood on her stool. No. My Ka-san apparently came. He paused as Ayam gave him a mock glare. Collecting himself, he tries again, trying to be less formal. My Ka-san ate here, but I have not. She thought ramen too unhealthy, so it wasn't on the menu. Naruto said awkwardly, hoping that he was informal enough for her taste. You are going to have to practice this. I will not have my son be such a stick in the mud. Kushina lamented from the seal. Her son is socially stunted, she knew this, but it was sad that he had such a hard time being carefree. Before Naruto could respond, Ayam was laughing. See, that wasn't so hard. Now because you're cute, I am going to do you a favor. A favor? Naruto wondered. He was still trying to wrap his mind around the concept of Ayam. Were all girls this confusing? Would Setsuna's baby be just as confusing? Yep. I am going to make you the best bowl of ramen ever. With that, the girl hopped off the stool and began to drag it into the back. On the way, she grabbed a blue apron and began to tie it around her waist before grabbing a white bandana and tying it around her hair. But I didn't pick a flavor. Naruto cries out, not realizing that he had just been informal. It's a surprise. Be patient. Ayam responds with a wave of her hand. As Ayam disappeared into the back, Naruto's bewildered face turns to the girl's father. Tochi, instead of answering the boy's unasked question, just begins to laugh. Confused, Naruto turned away. Is it me? Naruto thought. No, Sochi-kun, it's not you. Well, not entirely. Kushina answers. Though Naruto could have sworn he heard laughter from Seal after she answered. The wait wasn't long before Ayam came out once again with a steaming bowl of ramen in her hands. The stool that she had been dragging around being carefully kicked in front of her as she brought it back to the counter. Here, let me take that, Tochi said as he scooped the bowl of ramen out of her hands, letting her stoop down and grab her stool and quickly bring it to the counter. Tusan, don't give it to him. I made it, I get to give it to him. Ayam cried as she began to stand on the stool and saw her father about to give Naruto her creation. Alright, Ayam-chan, Tochi said in surrender as he hands the bowl to his daughter. Grabbing the bowl from her father, Ayam quickly turns back to Naruto with the bowl in her hand. Here, the girl says with her now familiar smile on her face before placing the bowl in front of Naruto. Naruto cautiously looks down at the noodle soup and sees the appropriate toppings and that it looked edible. In fact, it looked delicious to him. Reaching out, he grabs a pair of chopsticks before grabbing a bite and bringing it to his mouth. Blowing on it, he takes a bite. His eyes widen as the taste assaults his mouth. It's good. Really good, Naruto thought before quickly reaching for another bite. So what do you think? Ayam says with a cocky smile. It's really good. You are an excellent cook, Ayam-san, Naruto exclaims, momentarily forgetting himself as he indulges in the girl's cooking. Ayam blushes at the boy's praise coming from the unnaturally polite boy. Both embarrassed at his words and happy that she had broken through his shell. Shaking off her blush, she replies, I know, right? I am going to be a world-famous chef when I grow up. I believe that you can do it, Ayam-san, Naruto immediately answers before putting another bite in his mouth. You don't call me San, I'm not that old. I am still cute, call me Chan, Ayam says with a pout, noticing that he had said San to her name both times. Taking a look at the girl, Naruto freezes before answering, wondering why this girl affected him so easily. Ayam-chan, Naruto conceded as he finished the bowl. See, and I will call you Naruto-kun, Ayam said with a teasing smile, enjoying the reactions she could get out of the boy. Behind her, Tochi hid his grimace. He did not mind Naruto or the fact he was a Jinchuriki, he just didn't like his daughter calling any boy, no matter how old, kun. In his mind, she couldn't do that till she was 30. While Tochi hid the overprotective father inside of every man, Naruto blushed. It was the first time a girl or anyone close to his age had called him Kun. The laughter coming from his mindscape did little to help his embarrassment. I am Chan, what flavor was that? The boy nervously asked. Miso. Would you like another? I am asked. You'd make me another? Really, that would be awesome. Naruto spoke, sounding his own age. You really want me to make another? You weren't just being polite. You really like it. I am spoke excitedly. She had confidence in her cooking, but usually people ask for her father to cook for them, not trusting her age or treating her cooking like a fluke. Of course, you're a great cook. Naruto immediately responds. Okay, Naruto-kun, just because you love my cooking so much, I will make you another. With that, I am dashed into the back, carrying her stool with her, excited that Naruto truly liked her cooking. Just like before, the ramen did not take long to prepare, and soon I am, with the help of her father, was back on her stool at the counter presenting the bowl to Naruto. Enjoy, Naruto-kun, I am says happily. Nodding his head and taking a bite, Naruto lets out a small moan at the taste. The ramen he was eating was better than the last bowl. Soon the redhead finished his second bowl of ramen before turning to the girl once more. This was really good, I am Chan. Thank you. After he thanked the girl, he turned to Tucci. How much do I owe? Since this is your first time here, the first bowl is free. So 10 ryo. Tucci answers. Truthfully, he had given the boy the first bowl free because of how his daughter got along with him, as well as seeing the signs of ramen lover in the young redhead. After Naruto paid, I am spoke up once more. Will you come again? Will I be able to taste the food of a world-renowned chef again? Naruto spoke playfully, trying his hand at teasing while sincerely wishing to taste the girl's food once more. It took Ayam a second to catch what Naruto had said before she smiled so brightly that Naruto could have sworn it would outshine the sun. Hi. I will make you a bowl of ramen even better than the last. Ayam was ecstatic that Naruto had liked her food so much. Then I will see you soon, Ayam-chan. With those words, Naruto walked off, only hearing the girl shout out in answer, by Naruto-kun. If either had turned to look at Ayam's father, they would have seen a strained look on his face, as he battled his fatherly instincts. The man really didn't like a boy calling his little girl Chan or his daughter calling a boy Kun. Only the reminder that Naruto was 6 kept his fatherly side at bay. So did you enjoy talking to your girlfriend? Kushina teased from inside of the seal. As his mother, it was her duty to tease her son over such things. Ka-sen, she's not my girlfriend. Naruto answered his mother's blatant teasing. Little did he know that this encounter would be the birth of his first crush. Naruto, age 7. It was Naruto's birthday, and he had put his first plan in a bid for power into play. Over the last couple of months he had planned and plotted, and he believed that he was ready. He had been lucky that no one knew the extent of his shinobi knowledge, and that none of his ANBU guards knew that he could use the Kaigebushin. Taking advantage of their lack of information, he had taken to leaving a Kaigebushin in plain view of the ANBU and sneaking out using his sensor ability to avoid his ANBU guards before casting a solid henge over himself. With liberal uses of the henge to assume multiple identities, the young Uzumaki had met with several of Kushina's old contacts in the underworld of Konoha, trying to assume control of Kushina's old network. In his henge forms, he had provided proof of his connection to his mother by providing her personal symbol, a crashing wave with a whirlpool in the center. Sadly, after Kushina's death, her control over parts of the Konoha underworld fell under the control of others. Luckily, there were enough people who wanted to meet his henge self's employer that he had something to work with. With that, he created Niz Sagi. The henge was of a man in his young 30s with short black hair and tan skin. He is also average in height and wears one of two outfits, either a pure black kimono or a black Western-style business suit, depending on the meeting. With his in-depth knowledge of all of Kushina's past business dealings and her personal seal, he found that he was able to gain control of what remained of Kushina's network in Konoha. With their acquisition, he had poured clan resources into strengthening his position in the underworld before turning to the next step in his enterprise. He was going to take over Konoha's underground in one swift and brutal move. However, the current head of the underground, Hanzai Mori, reigned unopposed and was firmly entrenched. His only rivals being his own lieutenants, and a couple of upstarts like Naruto himself. So he had wondered how to remove the competition, and the answer came simply. Naruto did not personally have to remove the competition, he only had to be ready to seize control. Naruto had found out that the head of Konoha's underworld had lost his family in the Kyuubi attack, and with this knowledge he made his plan. While Hanzai was not stupid enough to touch Konoha's Jinchuriki, that didn't matter, people only had to believe his story. Letting out a sigh, Naruto stretched his sensor out and felt the 4 ANBU guards split off and respond to the 2 separate incidents he had organized to distract their attention. It had been surprisingly easy to find people willing to act like a drunken mob intent on finishing what the yondaime started if it meant that Konoha's Jinchuriki would be vulnerable. With the ANBU distracted, Naruto left his home and slipped down the street, using his sensor to keep ahead of the ANBU, chuckling slightly in his mind that people who wished him harm were actually helping his plan to succeed. Once on the street, he began to head towards an abandoned building in a part of the old Uzumaki district. It was in this building that his plan would come into play. Naruto, as Sagi, had lured one of the Hanzai's more ambitious lieutenants to the building, using the man's desire to overthrow his boss to keep the meeting secret. With knowledge of the location and the ability to slip his ANBU guards, the boy had prepared the small building with an Uzumaki listening seal as well as an explosive seal. Before Naruto reached the building, he created 3 Kagebushins and hinged them into random people. These clones would spread rumors of the attack through the crowd and how there was an attack on the Kyuubi brat in the old Uzumaki district. Taking a moment to watch his clones run off, Naruto quickly made it to the old building, drawing the 2 kunai he had kept hidden in the sleeves of his robe. Stopping on the outside of the building, he activated the listening seal and heard 4 men inside. After listening for a little while and finding that the meeting was not an ambush, he destroyed the listening seal with a flare of his spirit energy. Confidently entering the building, he stuck to the shadows, observing the 4 men as they foolishly stood in the middle of the room. The 3 guards were armed with daggers and seemed to hold a certain swagger, while the lieutenant appeared unarmed. Okay, Naruto, you trained for this. These are not good men. They are criminals. You can do this, Naruto assured himself before drawing his arm back and letting one of his kunai fly. The blade flew into the chest of the lieutenant. The man went down gurgling as he pawed at his wound. The strike had been sloppy, the man would die, but Naruto's inexperience had cost him a clean kill. For a moment Naruto froze, the shock of his first kill and such an unclean one, putting him in a daze. Snap out of it! Kushina yelled from the seal as she watched through Naruto's eyes as the 3 guards approached him, drawing their daggers. Shaking his head, Naruto ducked down as a dagger occupied the place where his head had been, his training kicking in as he lashed out at his attacker's knee with his remaining kunai. The man went down, but before he could finish him, he was kicked in the side and sent flying. Coughing, Naruto stood up, his young body feeling the damage from the adult's kick. Running his hand over the afflicted area, the young redhead cursed mentally. A rib, maybe 2, had been broken. His body was too immature to enter a contest of strength with adults. Taking a risk, Naruto channeled his chakra into his legs and broke into a charge. He could feel the muscles tear as his inexperience and lack of knowledge caused the chakra to negatively affect his body. Naruto knew that once this was over, he would dedicate time into this technique. Body enhancement was useful, but it could be quite painful when used improperly. Surprising one of the uninjured guards with his speed, he thrust his blade straight into the soft tissue of his belly before dragging it across. His previous horror shoved aside as his survival instinct took over. The body collapsed on him, trying to drag him to the ground, but Naruto resisted and tried to shove it off, only to be grabbed by the last uninjured guard. Picked up by the back of his shirt, the boy was tossed to the ground and stomped on, his last kunai stuck in the now deceased body, facing his way. Screaming in pain, Naruto tried to roll away, only for a voice from behind him to catch his attention. "Where do you think you are going, you little shit?" Naruto felt as he was grabbed from behind and lifted into the air. Once in the air, he found himself facing the guard whose knee he had damaged. The man had limped his way over to him, and now held him menacingly off the ground. The man drew back his dagger and shoved it into Naruto's stomach before throwing him to the ground, on top of the man he had gutted. Frantically, Naruto wrenched the kunai from the fallen man's stomach and held it close to his body. When the injured man reached to grab him once more, Naruto unveiled the kunai and shoved it into his throat and tore. The man went down. Seeing his partner dead, the last man began to stalk towards Naruto with murder in his eyes. Seeing this, Naruto quickly went through hand signs before activating the explosive seal. The blast tore through the building, burning his leg and his arms as he covered his face from the blast. The last guard was not so lucky. He had been near where the seal had been planted and found his lower half shredded. Naruto, despite his pain, leaned back. He could feel the Shinigami's blessing working to heal him, and he had won. His activated sensor was telling him that A and B were on the way, and so was the Hokage, if the large chakra was to be believed. But the victory had not been easy. Naruto had made mistakes. He had underestimated them, neglected to use his taijutsu, and caused damage to his body. He would heal, but the fight should not have happened the way it did. He would also have to talk to his mother about the killing. In the aftermath of Naruto's first kill, the Hokage had been furious. His ANBU had been